Broadcast is live. How's it going, everybody? It's Jesse, and you guys are joining me today on our cool little Easter spring event. We're early, of course, as I often like to do. I always like to come on early. I don't always get a chance to, though. But let's see. What do we got? Looks like we've got quite a few people. Actually, no, not yet. We're going to wait a few minutes, of course, to let everybody jump on. Hope everybody's doing amazing, having an awesome, amazing day. All right. See what we got. Let's see what we got. People are jumping on. I'd like to do a mic check. If you guys could, somebody in the comments can let me know if you can hear me okay. What's happening, Melissa Biggs? And then Tammy Helm from Canada. How's it going? Evening to you, Tammy. Hi, Megan Louise. If one of you could let me know in the comments, tell me, yes, I can hear you, Jesse. We can hear you just fine. Hopefully my audio is good. We had a few little technical difficulties the last time we were on, but I think we solved them. Noemi, how's it going? Junior Bennett. Let's see. Melissa Biggs says, I can hear you. Fantastic. Robin from, I lost your comment, Robin. There it is. Robin from Rimouski, Quebec. How's it going, Robin? How are you and everybody else joining in today? Once again, hopefully everyone's having a good day. We're not going to get started till 3 o'clock my time, which is approximately 10 minutes away. Just giving everyone a chance to jump on and find the feed. Whenever I jump on Facebook and YouTube, of course, as soon as the live feed starts, people start getting notifications, hey, Painting with Jesse's on, Painting with Jesse's on. People can click on the link and then it's easier for them to find the feed. So part of the reason why I like to jump on here a little early. I also like to check to make sure that my video is working, my audio is working, and that kind of stuff. So, all right, who else? Melissa Guild, how's it going? Shayna Shalapai says, this bunny is so cute, isn't it though? And you guys will be able to customize it just like with every other event that we do together. You can customize it however you'd like. Some people are going to want to make it more Easterish by adding more Easter stuff around it, maybe. Some people are going to make it more spring instead of Easter, maybe taking away some of the eggs and things like that. Let's see. How's it going, Lynn? Gotcha, Lynn. I think I've said your name before as Line, but it's Lynn. Okay, cool. In French, let's see. In French from Gatineau, Quebec, Canada. I need glasses, and the words are really tiny on my laptop, so I can read most of everything. If I squint a little bit. Kim Wilson, how's it going from Campbell River, BC? Great to be here live. Awesome, Kim. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to all of you new people, and of course, all the people that have been following the page for a while. As you guys are jumping on here and getting ready to paint, we're going to get going right at 3 o'clock. Like I said, that's about 8 minutes now. I want to talk about some of the events that are coming up tomorrow. I hope some of you join me. We're going to be painting these cool St. Patrick's Day Nomies. Okay, we're jumping, on St. Patrick's here. We're going to be doing these tomorrow. Okay, tomorrow, for those of you that aren't aware, go over to my event tab here on Painting with Jesse. And then next week, on the 10th, I believe it's on the 10th. Don't quote me. I often get my dates wrong, even though I set them up. On the 10th, we're doing this really cool horse theme. Okay, this is on the 10th. So again, if you guys want to participate in these, go over to the event tab on the main Painting with Jesse page here on Facebook, and you'll get all of the details. We've got a lot more stuff coming up in March, so make sure you guys are on the lookout. If you haven't yet, please make sure you like and follow the page so that you get all the notifications. Those are the next two events that are coming up. There's quite a few more events scheduled for March. So I'll be updating the calendar over the next few days. Okay, so make sure you guys stick around for that. But yeah, the little St. Patrick's gnomes, I'm going to be teaching you how to draw those completely by hand. Same thing with the horses. That's usually what I do on this when we do our sessions. I teach you how to draw everything completely from by hand, but I also provide stencils for those of you that would rather use a stencil or a traceable. I typically put those in the discussion tab on the event page. So if you guys are interested in either of the two paintings that I just showed you, simply go over to that event page, go to the event, right? Click on the picture of whichever one you like. Go to the discussion tab. You'll see the details and you'll see the stencils there. Okay, but those are the next 2 events that are coming up. Like I said, there's quite a few more events coming in March, but some of them I have already posted. Others I have yet to update the event tab with in the calendar. So make sure you guys are on the lookout for those because they're going to be a lot of fun. Okay, but all right, guys, we're about 6 minutes away. Who's on here with me? Ruth Cintron from Puerto Rico. What's happening, Ruth? Welcome to the page and the channel. I don't know how many of you guys are joining me over on YouTube, but this is being broadcast to both Facebook and YouTube. Looks like we've got a few people on YouTube. Okay. I don't get a chance to promote as much on YouTube as I do on Facebook. Of course, this whole thing started on Facebook way back in March of last year. So I've been growing really quickly on Facebook. YouTube, I've just recently begun to post there. But anyhow, we do have some people over on YouTube. So Facebook and YouTube today, welcome to all of you. Pretty awesome that you guys are here with me today. Let's see, Brooklyn is excited, says Natalie Pitcher from New York. Welcome, Brooklyn. Welcome, Natalie. I'm excited too. We're going to have some fun today. And Ross says, thank you for your lessons. I'm still working on the Blue Jays, so we'll wait to paint this one. All right, Ann. Yeah, that one was a lot of fun. The Blue Jays piece. For those of you that don't know what Ann is talking about, let me show you guys my Blue Jays piece from a few days ago. Okay, so this event we did last week sometime. I taught everyone how to draw this from scratch, but also provided some stencils for these. If you guys are interested in watching any of the previous videos, including that one, you'll simply go over to the live tab on that main painting with Jesse page here on Facebook, and you'll find the old tutorials, everything all the way back to March from last year. And I think it's probably about 80 videos up now. Videos for kids, videos for all ages. And I've uploaded quite a few of them to my YouTube as well, but most of them you'll find here on Facebook. A lot of them on YouTube, but all of them on Facebook. All right. But okay, who else is on here? Megan Louise from Mississauga, Canada. What's up, Megan? I think you've painted with me before, so welcome back. Eric Scott says 3 in our house, including a 4-year-old acorn from Santa Maria, California. What's happening, Eric, and everybody that's painting with you? What's happening, Penny Colt? Hi, Penny. Welcome back, Penny. Penny's always hanging out with us painting. Kimberly Aspis Gorneau. What's up, Kimberly? I know you painted with me before. Kim Dooley, I believe you painted with me before. From upstate New York, Kim Dooley. But anyway, folks, everybody's kind of, make sure you guys are relaxing today. Hopefully you guys are ready to have a good time. I'll be talking about, right at the start time, we're going to talk about the supplies and everything else. But one thing I do want to mention is as soon as this video is over, it will be, you'll be able to watch the recorded session of this live. So this is being recorded. As soon as it's over, it gets saved to the live tab on the main painting with Jesse page here on Facebook, and also, of course, on YouTube. So if you guys are interested in watching the recorded version, you can't hang out right now, or you don't get a chance to finish, the recorded version will be available for you to go and paint with. Okay, so just be aware of that. And of course, as I always like to ask you guys, this question is going to come up often throughout the session. People are going to jump on. They're going to say, oh my gosh, I missed it. Is this video available afterwards? Please, if somebody you can help out and let them know, yep, Jesse said the video is going to be immediately available after the live session is over. Okay, and if you could just let them know, check under the live tab on the main painting with Jesse page, or on my YouTube page, same name. The video will be right there. Okay, Lisa Grant from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. How's it going, Lisa? Adam and Jess Tucker, first time. Awesome, Adam and Jess Tucker. Thank you for being here. I'm assuming there's going to be quite a few first timers. So welcome to all of you, and welcome to all of you that have been hanging out with me for a while. Let's see. Kenneth Boring says, hi, Jesse, watching now while cooking. Paint this cute bunny in a little while. Thanks in advance. So really quick. Oh, you got it. Of course. My pleasure, Kenneth. Come on back whenever you're ready. So a couple of things for those of you that are on Facebook right now. If you have a chance, maybe you want to catch this on YouTube instead. On YouTube, you can actually pause, back up, jump back to the front during the live session but you cannot do that on Facebook. So on Facebook, you have to watch the whole thing You can't back it up until after, right? You can do it with a recorded session, obviously, but not with the live session. You can only do that on YouTube. So if you guys are interested in being able to pause and back it up, etc., during the live session, you'll want to catch us on YouTube. So there's still about 2 minutes before we start the actual, session here officially. So if you guys want to head on over to YouTube and stream from there instead, please feel free to do so. Again, YouTube just offers you the ability to pause it and back it up during the live. Okay, you can jump back to the very front, right? But again, Facebook doesn't let you do that. I'm not sure why. It'd be kind of cool, but anyway, you guys have that just in case you guys might like to do that. Chantal Vasquez, what's happening, Chantal? Good, I'm excited too. Pamij, how's it going from Florida? Hi, how's it going? How are you? Amanda Rogers with Gemma from Florida, I believe, 10 years old. What's happening, Diane Layton? Welcome back, Diane. Brianna Marie says, watching tonight. Yep, you guys can watch this whenever you want, tonight, tomorrow, etc. I will be asking you guys to send me pictures of your masterpieces, as I always do. Please don't forget to send those to me. I love to share those. What I do is I'll grab all the pictures you guys send me over the next day or so, and then I do like a bulk post on Facebook where I share all of your pictures. People come on over and check that out. People love seeing everybody else's work. So if you guys can, make sure you send me a picture of your painting when you're all done today. You'll send it to me here on Painting with Jesse on Facebook through Messenger. If you're on YouTube, send it to me via email at paintingwithjesse@gmail.com. Okay? All right, everyone. It is 3 o'clock. It is officially start time. My name is Jesse. You guys are on my Painting with Jesse page on Facebook and on YouTube. I want to welcome everybody, and I just want to thank you all for being here. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me today. So what are we painting? Of course, our cute little Easter bunny spring theme that you see over on, I'm not sure which side of the camera you guys would be watching this on. I guess it's on my right, probably your left. I'm not sure. Yeah, your left. Anyhow, so that's what we're doing today. I'm going to be teaching you how to do it completely from scratch. We're going to draw it by hand. I know some of you guys are going to be taking advantage of the stencil that I provided. If you guys aren't ready to paint right now, or you guys are interested in painting and would like to use the stencil, it is sitting under the discussion tab on that event page. So if you go over to the discussion tab, look down below, you're going to find the stencils. You can download them from there, copy them, cut them out, whatever it is you have to do to be able to use them as traceables or stencils today. But I am going to be teaching you guys how to do everything from scratch. Supplies today, I'm going to be drawing with a piece of chalk, okay, piece of red chalk, unless I've got any technical difficulties during the process, in which case I'll switch over to a pencil or a piece of charcoal. But as long as everything goes as planned, I'm going to be drawing with a red piece of chalk. I like drawing with chalk because it's really easy to work with, easy to erase. If I need to, make any touch-ups, clean anything up, chalk is easy to work with. As an alternative, if you don't have any chalk, you can use pencil, charcoal, etc. Anything that you can easily erase or clean off of your canvas. I'm going to be using a canvas 16 by 20. That's what the original is on. That's what I'm going to be using to demonstrate today. You can use whatever size canvas or piece of paper, board, etc. Whatever you guys have. I know some of you guys like to paint on wood boards. Some of you use those oval boards, or some of you paint on rocks. So whatever you've got is perfectly fine. I'm using acrylic paint. Whatever you guys are going to be using as far as paint or colors, etc. Maybe you're going to be using markers or watercolors, etc. All of that stuff is perfectly fine. I've got a bunch of colors that I'm going to be using today. I'm just going to go through these kind of quickly. I'm going to be using a little bit of black. Any of these colors that you don't have, just make do with what you do have. Hopefully you have something similar. Black, mostly, I plan on using the black for the, maybe a little bit of outlining on the rabbit. The eyes are going to be black. The eyelashes, of course, and who knows, maybe a couple of other areas, but that's what black's going to be for. I've got some pink. Okay, a little bit of pink in here. Got some yellow. Okay, I've got some purple. This is darker than what I'm going to be using. I'll probably be lightening this up with some white. On that note, we got some white. Okay, I've got some orange. I've got some light blue. I'm going to be lightening this up a little bit more with some white also to use on my background. And we are going to be painting the background first. Okay, then we're going to draw over that. I'm going to be using a hair dryer to blow dry that background to dry it before we start to draw. I've got a little bit of brown in here. I'll be mixing this with white for the rabbit. And then I'll also be using this with some red for my flower pot. Whatever color you guys are going to be using for your flower pot or for your rabbit, you're perfectly fine to do so. I've got a couple of shades of green, some light green and some dark green, okay, for the grass. And then I do have a little bit of red. Okay, I'll go over the colors again before we actually get started with the painting process, but those are the colors. Again, whatever colors you guys have, make do with what you've got. Okay, it's not necessary to have the exact same colors that I do. Of course, we got some brushes here, and I'm going to go over to the main camera over here to show you these brushes. I've got this 2-inch flat brush that I'm going to be using for the background. And again, I'm going to mention that we're going to be painting the background in first. Okay, then we're going to draw over that. It's 2-inch flat brush. If you guys have a 1-inch or a 3-inch, it's all good. Just something large to be able to cover your background quickly. I've got a 1/2-inch flat brush. Basically, this is what I'll be using for the pot, maybe some of the rabbit, the ears, okay? Kind of an in-between size. Then I've got so that was a 1/2-inch flat. I've got a number 8 filbert. Now, if you guys have a number 5, I think I listed in the details that I'd be using a number 5, number 8, anything close to this, you're fine. A filbert basically has a rounded edge top, and I'll be using that to paint on the inside, primarily on the inside of the rabbit. These are good for doing curved edges, right? But if you don't have one of these guys, don't stress about it. A flat brush will be just fine. Okay, then the other 3 brushes I'll be using a number 5 flat, little tiny square-headed brush. Okay, small details. I can use this to make some of these grass blades, some of these stems here for the flowers, right? And then I've got 2 small round brushes. A number 3, okay, just a little pointy brush for detail work. And then I've got a 0 round. Again, these are just little small detail brushes. If you guys have anything similar to this, you're going to be okay. All right, so those are the colors I'll be using. The brushes, sorry. I do have some paper towels. Messes happen. It's very important. You guys have extra paper towels handy. You don't not only use those to clean up messes, but we also use them to clean the brushes themselves. Okay, brushes can get a little bit, in between steps. Sometimes we just clean them up. I've also got a cup with some water in it. Once we get going, my brushes sit inside this throughout the entire process. I will remember today to talk to you guys about how to clean up your brushes at the very end so you guys can maintain them and they last you for a really long time. If you guys, so those of you that are going to be here till the very end, if you guys can remind me as I get close to the end, hey, Jesse, how do you clean your brushes so I don't forget that? But water cup, I use plates for palettes. Basically, I put them out. I've already got my colors laid out. Hopefully you guys do too. We're going to be working on those background colors here in just a little bit. I'll talk about that more in just a moment. But I use plates, whether paper, styrofoam, for palettes. Okay, and that is pretty much it. Other than my blow dryer, I do have a blow dryer that I use. I will be using it today. As soon as I've got that background done, I'm going to use it to blow dry that background and get it nice and dry before we start to draw over it. Okay, but all right, everybody. We are good to go. We got quite a few people on here today. So once again, I just want to say thank you and welcome to all of you. Whether you've been here for a little while or you're new to the page or channel, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, just want to welcome all you guys and say thank you for being here. But let me change the screen here so that we can, whoops, not that one. There we go. That's the one we want. But all right, everyone. So the way that I do this, for those of you that have been painting for a while, you guys know, that have been painting with me for a while, you guys know how this works. What I'll do is I will detail a step. I'll implement it over here on my end, and then you guys get to do it on your end. I usually give you guys a couple of minutes or so, depending on the complexity of the step. I give you a little time to implement it on your side. Okay. In between steps, I like to sit there and look at the comments. I answer questions. I say hello and all of that good stuff. We are going to be painting today for approximately 2.5 to 2 hours and 45 minutes. But if you can't stay that long, paint for as long as you can, and then come back and finish with the recorded session. All right, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with the background. Now, I've got a couple of colors here. I've got some white and some blue that I'm going to be mixing together to create a slightly lighter version than this blue for my background. Now, you can mix whatever colors you want. You can create whatever color background you want for yours. I'm going to have a similar color to this. And once again, I'm going to be using my 2-inch flat brush for that background. Now, I've got this plate here that's got old paint on it. I like to reuse my plates as much as I can, but this guy has old paint on it. I'm simply going to take my blue. I'm going to use this brush right here. I'm going to scoop up a bunch of this blue, okay? And I'm going to bring it over to my plate. Okay, I'm going to do that. Now I'm going to take, with the same brush, I'm going to grab a bunch of this white, okay? I'm going to bring it over to my mix plate. This is the plate where I'm mixing the background color. Now, I'm going to mix this, and then I'm going to compare it to the original just to see that I make sure that I have a color that's kind of similar to that original one. Okay, once I've got the color that I want, I'm going to go ahead and apply it to my background. Okay, so that's pretty close to the original. Might be a little bit darker. So maybe I'll take a little bit more white. Doesn't have to be exact. If you guys are mixing a light blue for yourselves, don't stress too much about trying to make sure it matches mine. As long as you've got a nice light blue, you're going to be okay. There we go. That's the color that I want. Now, you can apply this paint like this using kind of a crisscross pattern, which is what I'm going to use for today's painting. That's what I did on the original. I like the way that looks. Okay, but you could also do this, long brush strokes, either up and down or sideways. You can do this throughout as long as you use the same brush stroke throughout the entire surface of your canvas, you're going to be okay. Okay, you don't want to do this and then do long ones here and then, right? You don't want to vary it because that won't look as nice unless you're specifically going for that kind of a look. Whatever pattern you decide to use, you want to stick with it through the entire process. So again, in this case, I'm using kind of a choppy crisscross pattern, and I'm going to use this on my entire canvas. Whoops. Splashing some paint around, got some over here on my original, so let me clean that up before it dries out on me. You guys probably have some questions and stuff that I haven't seen. That can happen, guys. Don't stress too much. As soon as I'm done with this step, I'll go over to the comments, see what you guys got. In the meantime, you guys are either mixing your color or you're already applying it to your background. This paint that I'm using today, I've got a combination of Artist Loft, an Artist Loft brand, and then I mixed in a little bit of Master's Touch paint. Okay, just a little bit. Now, the last session that we did a few days ago, I was talking about the paint that I used on the original painting, and I said it was the Fine Touch paint. It was actually Master's Touch paint. I always get those two confused. But anyway, both or all the brands that I just mentioned are acrylic, but they do vary. The Master's Touch paint tends to be a little bit glossier, actually quite a bit glossier than the Artist Loft paint. So I just mixed, and there I go again, splashing. Getting a little too happy with my paint here, getting them all over the place. Accidents happen. But anyway, so Master's Touch is a little bit glossier than my Artist Loft paint. Depends on what kind of finish you're looking for. Just going to step over here and clean that up. Again, before it dries, it's a lot easier to clean up acrylic paint when it's still wet. So I'm taking a paper towel, adding a little bit of water to it, just coming over here and doing that, taking it off. All right. So sometimes I like to do on my backgrounds, I like to do long brush strokes all the way across, vertical brush strokes or horizontal ones all the way across. I take the paint from one side to the other. When you do that, your background gets to be a little smoother, a little cleaner. But sometimes these more rough or these rougher backgrounds can be kind of cool also. Again, it's what I used on the original. Creates, the light reflects a little differently with each brush stroke. Again, as long as you stick with the same pattern throughout, you'll be okay either way. All right. Now I am going to take a little bit of paint and do the edges. So once you do the front there, you could take some paint. When I say the edges, I mean the sides of the canvas. Left, right, top. I won't do the bottom right now. I'll save the bottom for very, very last. So you want to make sure I'm covering all my front here. Don't want to leave any white peeking through. Who knows? Some of you might be using a different color than I am, right? For your background. Green would work, yellow would work, pink would work. I'm assuming most of you are probably sticking with pastel colors. But you can use, again, you can use whatever color you want. Get creative. There we go. There's that. And then I'm going to do the top. And again, I won't be doing the bottom edge underneath until the very end. And I might even do it in green instead of blue. So I might take some green. I'll do that bottom edge at the very, very end. But all right, everyone, let's take a look at your comments here. While you guys are working on that, let's see. Linda Stewart says, I really love how you explain everything so well. Watching with two granddaughters that are really enjoying this. We are going to paint in the morning. Fantastic, Linda. Yeah, folks, I know that there's different people that do this, right? The lessons, you can find lessons on YouTube, on Facebook. There's a lot of us doing this today. I tend to take my time a little bit more than others from what I notice, and that does make for some pretty long sessions sometimes. I mean, there have been times that we painted 4 hours, 4.5. That's not very common. Usually my sessions last about 2.5 to 3, these larger, more complicated pieces. But I like to take my time because I like to explain things. I don't want to go extremely into detail, but I do want to explain thoroughly enough where even a really new person will be okay. So, all right. So Megan Louise, on this software. So with the software that I'm using right now to stream with the two cameras, I can't use any music at the moment. I have to get some type of add-on to the software that will allow me to use music. But for right now, I have not put that on. I've been busy trying to fix some audio issues that we've had intermittently over the last few times that I've used this. Finally, I think I figured it out. Now I can start to tweak it a little bit, but music will be coming, okay? Music will be coming soon. Non-copyright music, though. I can't use any copyrighted stuff. But all right, guys, you guys got about a minute, and then we're going to move on to the next step. How's it going, Brooke? 9-year-old Brooke, everybody say hello to 9-year-old Brooke. Do we have any people celebrating a birthday today or tomorrow or within the next couple of days, or maybe you had a birthday yesterday, anniversaries, etc.? Put it down in the comments so we could congratulate you guys, okay? But all right, let's see. Another hello, Victoria Reed. What's happening, Victoria? Greetings from Mississippi. But all right, guys, another minute or so, and I'm going to go ahead and use my blow dryer. Now, the reason why I use a blow dryer is to speed up the process, right? Just it cuts the time by a little bit, but I am going to use it to dry my background so that we can start to draw over the top of it. So if you guys have a blow dryer handy, please have it ready, unless you're in a warm area or you're noticing that your paint is drying very quickly, okay? Different types of acrylic paint will dry at different rates. The Master's Touch paint that I sometimes use dries a little more slowly, as opposed to the Artist Loft paint. The Artist Loft paint tends to dry pretty quickly. I've got a mixture of both going here, so I've got kind of a happy medium, but I'll still be using my blow dryer here in just a little bit, okay? But all right. Awesome. Let's see. Maria Chavez. How's it going, Maria? Painting with my granddaughter, Molly, from Tamaya, New Mexico. Tamaya, New Mexico. All right, Maria and granddaughter, welcome. Yeah, Cheryl Rapp. You can have whatever color background you'd like. If you want to create a darker background, absolutely. Just make sure that when you're going to be drawing your background, your characters, your little rabbit and the pot and everything else, unless you've already done it. I know some of you like to pre-draw or pre-trace your stuff onto your canvas and then paint around it. But yes, a darker background will be okay too. Again, you can use whatever you'd like as far as colors go. Get creative, but yes, a dark background will work as well. Okay. Rosie Galaz, hello from Arizona, says Rosie. Hello to you, Rosie. My brother lives in Arizona, Yuma. But all right, everyone, here we go. I got my blow dryer here. So let me turn this up a little. Nice and warm. So this will dry the canvas quite quickly, a minute, minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes. But because I'm going to be drawing over this background, I want to make sure that the paint is not wet. You could draw over wet paint, you can, but if you make a mistake and you need to correct something, that's a lot harder to do over wet paint. Sometimes when I'm in a hurry on a project and the paint is still wet, if I don't have my blow dryer handy, then I will draw over the wet paint. But I need to be careful that, then I have to be extra careful that I don't make any mistakes. Having to erase over wet paint can be really tough. But all right, everything's nice and dry to the touch. We're going to turn the original towards me a little so I get a better view of our rabbit. If I need to, when I can, I will give you guys a close-up of what I'm doing. But I want you to also be able to look at the original, right, to be able to kind of compare. But I've got some red chalk here. I'm just going to do a really quick test here, make sure that you guys can see it in the video. Looks like you can see it, maybe a little bit on the light side. Okay. That was just a mark that I put down to, yeah, you can see it. Okay, good. Here's what I like about chalk. That was just a little test line. Don't worry, that we're not going to use that. I'm taking a wet paper towel, and if I need to correct anything with chalk, I can just go in there and erase it. Okay? That's what's cool about drawing with chalk over paint. Okay, over dry paint. Of course, you can do this with pencil. Charcoal is also pretty good. Sometimes, though, charcoal, depending on the charcoal that you use, it can be difficult to erase. Pencil can also be a little bit problematic sometimes. So I like to draw with chalk when I can. I had to go pick some up because I'd run out. But anyway, here we go. So let's take a look at our pot, because this is what we're going to start with. And everyone's pot's going to look a little different. I want to make sure everybody understands that. Your pot can be a little taller than mine. It can be a little wider. It can be skinnier, smaller. It's all good. Okay? Don't stress about trying to create the exact same thing that I've got, but a couple of things to notice. This bottom part is basically a box with a slightly wider opening at the top. If we're looking at just at this part here, okay, so this is slightly narrower in opening than this at the top. Okay, so it's if you imagine a box, this bottom edge is slightly curved, so is the top edge, but this opening is a little bit larger. So we're going to start with that box. And the box on my 16 by 20 inch canvas is about 2.5 inches from the bottom. So maybe whatever you're drawing, whatever you're creating this on, just kind of mark off some area in the bottom. You can leave some space underneath for your grass. All we're going to do is this. I always make my initial lines nice and light. Once I have what I want, I can go ahead and darken it up. Okay, let me verify that everybody can see that. All right, perfect. I can see it on mine, so that means you can see it on yours, or at least you should. Okay, now, don't make it too wide. Yeah, I might have made mine a little bit wider than what I need, so I'm just going to clean it up a little. On the original, on my 16 by 20 inch canvas, this is probably about 5 inches in width. That's about 5 inches in width. Again, about, right? And we want to kind of center it, get your pot kind of in the middle. You can be slightly over to one side or the other, but aesthetically, it'll look nicer if it's more so in the middle. Okay? So maybe on mine, I'm going to bring this over to the left a little bit more so I have the same room on each edge. Okay, so you can just gauge it like this, like what I'm doing with my hand. Okay, and it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to have exactly the same space on one side as you do on the other. As long as it's kind of close, you're going to be okay. All right. So then how tall is this base on my pot? Well, it's also about 5 inches. Okay, maybe about like this. So same thing. Remember, this is slightly curved. Has a little slight curve to it. Okay, and this is a little bit longer this way. And I might have gone a little bit taller on this one here than on that, but that's okay. But you want this a little wider than this. Okay, so just bring it out a little bit. Then once you've got your 2 lines, you're just going to connect them. Notice my lines are nice and I'm not too worried about them being perfect. Do take a little step back from time to time, make corrections as you need. If you guys are drawing with chalk like I am or with pencil, you're going to be painting over your lines anyway. Okay, so there's my box. Again, this part is this in here. Okay, now I can draw this rim on top. I'm going to make my rim a little bit smaller than on the original, just by a little bit, because this is a little taller than that. Just making a little adjustment. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to bring this line out a little bit on each edge, just a touch. Okay, come up, slightly inwards, like this, and then connect those at the top. You also want to make this a little bit curved. Let me take a little step back, make sure that I've got my lines all correct. And I'm probably a little taller than what I want. Let's see here. I think we're close. It's a little taller, but that's all right. As long as I leave enough room up here for my rabbit, my little rabbit. Let's see here. Little rabbit's about right here. You know what? I'm going to bring mine down a little bit. Okay, I am going to make an adjustment here. Too high. So I'm just going to clean this up. Just make a slight adjustment. Whoops. Just bring it down a little bit. Okay, again, I come out a little bit. Go up. Nothing wrong with having to erase or make corrections. All part of the process. There we go. A little bit better. Giving myself a little bit more room for my rabbit up on top. Okay, so work on that for just a moment. And then we'll get to drawing our little rabbit. Gabriella, how's it going? Your daughter's name is Jezebel. Hi, Jezebel. Glad you're enjoying yourself. What's happening, Gloria Marie? Oh, and Lisa. Gloria Marie and Lisa are on today. Fantastic. Let's see, Cheryl, how are you? Nandekumar, how's it going? All right, everyone. So, give you a little time for that pot. Okay. Before you move on to the next step, make sure you guys take a little step back, make any corrections that you might need. I'm just going to make a little adjustment right here. Again, the beauty about using chalk is that you can make corrections, no problem. All right, so let's look at our little rabbit, which is what's next. There are 3, you can look at your rabbit as having 3 parts or even 4 parts. The body here, this is 1 part, okay? The head can be looked at as 1 part, so the whole head, or it could be 2 parts. This bottom part of the head, and then the little forehead top part. So 1, 2, 3, okay, 3 parts. And then of course you've got your ears. Those are the big parts, the big pieces, the big components to our rabbit. And what you want to be careful, whatever size canvas you're doing this on, what you want to be careful of is that you don't go too high when you're doing the top of the head. You don't go so high that you don't leave enough room on top for your ears, right? So you're going to have to kind of make little adjustments here. Be aware of that. What we're going to draw first is this little part down in here. Okay, but what I'm going to do first, before I do any of that, I'm going to mark off my sections so that I ensure that I make enough room, that I leave enough room for everything. So what I mean by that is there's this section here. I'm going to mark that off. That little section for the body is going to be about right here. This is about right there. Okay. So again, I'm going to mark everything off first before I draw the whole thing. Last thing we want to do is be drawing, and then we realize, oh no, I made the head too big. Now I've got to erase everything, start over. Okay, so we mark off some, we mark off the parts, the edges of the parts. Okay, the next part is right in here. Okay, right? And that is approximately about the same size. This right here is about the same height as that. So you can kind of do this. Now you've got the next segment, again, which is about where the eyes are, or maybe the top of the nose. Okay. Right? Then from there, we've got the forehead, and the forehead is a little bit smaller. So if we do this, it's a little smaller than this middle segment. So top of the head's about right here. Okay, again, this is a little smaller than this, and these two are about the same. These two segments are about the same width. Okay, so here's the top of my head, and I can gauge it. I can look at it and go, yeah, I've got enough room for my ears. Okay. Once we've done that, we can go ahead and start sketching. We're going to sketch the body first. Okay, little body comes down like this. Okay, we don't need to add any of the little fur or anything like that. I'm just blocking in the general shapes. Once we've got that, starting up here where the little cheeks are, they come out a little bit on both sides. Curve back in, curve back down. Your little rabbit can be a little chubby, it could be a little skinny. It's all good. Just make little adjustments as you go. Okay. I can already see this bunny's probably going to be a little bit whiter than that one. If I didn't like that and I wanted to make it smaller, I could, but I'm okay with it. Now the top part. So forehead. This is a little bit, drops down. Okay, the drop from here to here, your edges is more pronounced. These are more curved, right? Some of these lines in here we're going to be erasing in a little while. Okay. So we got that forehead. Let's put in the little ears now. So about, here's the middle of the head, top of the head. Just come over to the side a little bit. A little curved. Okay. So one ear. Come over to the other side. Of course, if you're using the stencil, you guys already know, right? You guys are either already tracing it on. I apologize for not mentioning it. If you're using that stencil, you guys have it nice and easy. Go ahead and stencil it on. Trace it on if you haven't already. If you've only got the outsides, if you only have the stencil cut out, so you're only doing the outside edges, as soon as you're done with the outside, you're going to start adding in all the inside stuff, which is what I'm going to be putting in just a little bit. Okay? All right, take a moment on that. Take about a minute to catch up with that. See what we got as far as comments. What's happening, Maya and Myra from Toronto? Hi, Myra. Hi, Maya. Peggy Crowley from Alabama. What's happening, Peggy? Welcome back. Julia Richards from Utah. How's it going out in Utah? Hopefully you guys are all doing fantastic. So take a moment again, look at your rabbit, assess it a little bit, make adjustments if you need to. Okay? Okay. here we go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start adding some detail. Okay, I'm starting with the little fur around the cheeks. Now I can add a little bit of fur. I can also widen my cheeks a little. I'm just going through and looking, just adding a little bit of these little furry edges, right? Little tiny squiggly points, not squiggly, but pointy lines across for the cheeks. Okay, I'm also going to, actually going to add a couple little eyes here, little circles, ovals. More like I'm just placing the eyes in so that I can I have an idea where they're going to be. So eyes, a little fur around the cheeks. Okay. Let me refine this ear a little. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the inside of the ear. This part in here, the pink part. Okay. This side also. Actually, I'm going to clean the inside of this ear up a little bit. Got a lot of lines in there. I want you guys to be able to see what I'm doing. So let me just clean the inside of this ear. And I'll give you guys a close-up in a moment. Okay, so now I'm going to take my chalk. Okay, there we go. Now, we have this little area, this line across here. Now, this little line would run approximately right above the nose. Okay, so this line right here runs right over that nose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put that little nose in. Okay. Now I can go ahead and take my paper towel, clean that up. Just to remove those extra lines. And then I'm going to go ahead and add this little lighter section under the nose. And if you notice, the little nose right has a little V shape here at the bottom. This little really wide angled V shape underneath. From there, I'm going to come over and do this kind of a long oval shape underneath. Okay. Let me clean the inside of that up a bit. So I like to draw these from scratch, right? I like to teach you guys how to draw from scratch. I know some people aren't super interested in doing the drawings from scratch, but I know there's plenty of you that I get a lot of messages from people saying, hey, I really like that you draw things from scratch because I like to learn how to draw. So that's why I do this, right? We could do this all completely with stencils, but it's not quite as fun, not as fulfilling for me anyway. But hopefully you guys are all enjoying and learning a little bit with these lessons. Okay, so we've got so of course this is the outer edge of that lighter part underneath the nose. Once we've got that in place, we're just going to draw a little line down the middle, kind of like this. From there, we're going to put the little mouth in there. Now, when we start to paint, some of this might get lost a bit, but you have a visual as to where everything is, and you can kind of work your way around it with the paint. Okay. And one thing I'm noticing right away, the cheeks on this one, on the original, are a little bit wider, so I can always make those adjustments with chalk right now, or I can do it with paint later, where I make these a little bit wider if I want, right? Makes for maybe puffier cheeks, but I'm not too worried about it. Okay. Also, The forehead looks a little more prominent here because we don't have any of the flowers. We're not going to add those flowers till later. Okay, we're not going to draw those in, so don't worry about those. Take a look at your little bunny. Make any adjustments that you need to. Maybe make the little furry edges here on the bottom, and then also this little center, this little lighter center here on the chest. Just go through here, and go like that. Of course, this little line, we can keep that, the line that we did at the beginning, because that little line is this one here. But I'm going to clean this up, the one that's in between right now. All right. So look at your bunny. Take a little step back if you need to. Look at your bunny. Do you have everything? We don't need the eyelashes or anything like that. We can add those later. Okay? I am debating whether we need to add the eggs right now. You know, might as well. Let's add the eggs. So mine has an egg over here. A little green egg over on the side. It's going to go like this. It's laying on its side. Hopefully you left yourself a little space for some eggs in your pot. This one kind of goes in front of my rabbit here, right? So I've got this orange one over here. It's just the top part of the egg. Comes up, comes back down. Don't want to put it too close to the edge. I am going to go and do the one down here in the grass. Oops, let me sit here so I can correct that one. This one's a little bit odd shaped. Of course, we're going to have grass and everything down here. So there's one egg, and then I got this egg over here. So for those of you with the stencil, all you did was your outline. Of course, you've got to include this line in here. All the details on the inside of your bunny, you want to add all of that. Okay? I'm going to make a correction to the chin. This part right in here. I want a little smaller. There we go. This part right in here. And I'm going to make the cheeks a little bit puffier. Bring that around. All right. So even if I left all that, where did I leave my, keep losing my chalk over here. So even if I left all this chalk, you guys see me erasing chalk? Even if I leave it all in there, I can paint right over it. No problem. All right, everyone, you guys got about 2 minutes before we move on to the next step, okay? Let's see. What's happening, Constance Kata? How are you? Somebody mentioned I'm not sure they're talking about my painting or somebody else's. Somebody mentioned, looks like a donkey. Yeah, I suppose if you make the ears a little too long, it could definitely look like a donkey. Half donkey, part bunny rabbit, part hare. I don't know. But all right, everyone. Linda Stewart, how's it going out in Texas? Hope everyone is doing fantastic out there. Everyone from Texas. I know some of you guys have had a rough time with the weather last couple of weeks or so, few weeks. But all right, everyone. So as far as the drawing part of it, that's all we're going to do right now. we're going to start to paint. Now these flowers and everything else, we can do those with paint. Maybe we'll draw them. We'll see where we are once we paint in some of the bunny and the pot and everything else and the grass underneath. We'll see where we are, and maybe we'll draw those in with, I'll show you guys how to draw those with chalk or pencil, or maybe we'll do that all together with just with paint. We'll see. But let's go ahead and start with our painting. What I would like to do is start with the pot. Okay. Now everyone's going to use different colors for their pots. I know some of you guys are going to do a red pot. Some of you are going to get really spring or Easter and do like a yellow, or maybe you're going to do a pattern on your pot. It's all good. I'm going to make mine like the original, which is a combination of red and brown. I'm going to make a similar color to it. Maybe a little bit more red. We'll see. But what I did to attain this color is I mixed a little bit of red and a little bit of brown and then a little bit of white. So I'm going to take one of my spare plates, one of my old plates. I'm going to grab some red. I'll show you guys what I'm doing here in just a moment. So I'm scooping up some red. I'm using my 1/2-inch flat brush here. So all this other color that you see back here is all dry. The only thing that's wet right now is this red in here. So I'm going to scoop up some red. I bring it over. Again, I'm using my 1/2-inch flat brush. As long as you've got something similar, you're good. Okay, now I'm going to take some brown. I got some deep brown over here. Okay, I'm not going to put it right in there right away. I'm going to bring it over to the side. Now I'm going to mix the two together. Now this is going to be kind of a brick red color that I'm producing at this moment. I could use this. It's going to be a darker color than the original, but instead I'm going to grab a little bit of white, lighten it up a touch. Okay, so right now with the red and the brown, I created kind of a brick red color. Right now I'm going to take some white. Need a little more than that, so give me a second. So these big bottles of, this big bottle of white right here, Artist Loft. Okay, again, not as glossy as mine. It's also not as glossy as the Fine Touch paints that I use. I use Fine Touch. I use Master's Touch. I get confused between those two. Names are too similar. But Master's Touch tends to be a lot glossier. And there's no right or wrong. Some of you like to have more of a matte finish. Some of us like to use more of a glossy finish. It just really depends. And then the finish also, every painting can be a little different. It depends on the mood, etc. So here I created kind of a burgundy pink fuchsia color right here. Now I could use this. I could add more brown to make it look more like that. And maybe I'll add a little bit more brown. Again, I'm not trying to match. I don't have to try and match that color exactly. As long as you've got some color that matches your idea, what you see in your head, you're good to go. And that's what I'm going to use right there. Kind of a fuchsia color. So what I like to do typically is I will do the edges first. Now what I'm doing with this brush, and you could use a smaller brush for this outlining stuff to make sure you stay within your lines. But I'm pressing my brush down onto the plate. And what that does is it makes my edge really tight, nice and skinny. So what I'll do next is I'll come in here and just run this down the edge like that. Same thing over on this side. I got my little egg down here, so I got to be careful with that. Go around that. Now in this case, I'm painting right over my chalk lines. And if I don't, I've got a little bit of chalk sticking out on the edges. That's okay. That's easy to clean up later. But even here, now here I'm painting right under my chalk line. I want that chalk line to be part of that rim of my pot. Okay? Now, once I've got that, I'm going to use these long vertical brush strokes. You could also use a curved brush stroke across. Actually, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. Either will work. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use my brush And I'm going to run these horizontal brush strokes, slight curve to them. So I'm slightly curving it. What I'm doing with that, each time that I run across the pot like this, with this curved, slightly curved motion, even though it's all one color, I'm actually giving the pot a little bit of depth, a little bit of dimension. Okay? So instead of having a flat finish to this, I'm giving it a little bit more of a 3D look by doing this. Again, slightly curved as I'm going across, slightly curving my brush stroke, following the shape of the edge. If you imagine the edge right of the pot, it's curved like this. But if you want to do vertical brush strokes, that works too. All right. Work on that for a moment. Robin, ladder route. You want the left ear to drop forward. Okay. So while you guys are working on your pot, let me demonstrate that. So this is just for anyone that would like to have a floppy ear. Okay, and we're going to work on over here on the left part. So it's actually pretty basic. I'm going to go and erase. Now I'm going to change it back to pointy once I'm done with this, once I've demonstrated this. Okay, but for any of you that might be interested in a floppy ear, which I think would look really cute, really cool, taking a little bit of water here, I'm just going to clean this up. Now, I'm doing this at an angle. Okay. And bring this down. Okay, kind of like that. Okay. Actually, let me take a dry paper towel and clean up that wet area there. Dry it up. Okay, so you've got a floppy ear. What you're going to do is you're going to cut this off at a nice angle like that. Okay, that's what you're starting with. Okay, kind of like that. You'll come over. Hold on, it's easier if I hold it over here. You're going to come over. You're going to do this. Okay. You're basically drawing a triangle right here. Okay. Little triangle over the top. And of course, right here, this is all one solid color. You can see the pink coming up to here, like you do there. And then on the other side, all you see is the back part of the ear. But all you're doing is drawing a little triangle right up over the top there. Okay, play with that a little bit. Pretty cool. Who knows, maybe I'll leave it. But the idea is, though, you want to bring this down far enough so that it makes sense, right? If you do this too high up, then if you do it a little higher up, then this triangle would be smaller. The higher up you fold the ear, the smaller the triangle is going to be. Hopefully that makes sense. Take a little step back. Your eyes will pick up on it. If it doesn't make sense, if it's really down towards the bottom, then you want to elongate your triangle just a little bit, make it a little bit longer, right? So you'll see it. Take a little step back, look at it. If it doesn't make sense, your brain will see it, just adjust a little bit. So here, for example, mine would probably be okay if I did it a little bit longer. And my chalk keeps rolling away from me, so there we go. That makes a little bit more sense to me. Okay? But all right. So there's that. And maybe I'll leave it. Who knows? I kind of like it. I'll decide on that a little bit later once I start to paint the rabbit. But okay, now we're going to paint the top part here. What I would suggest on this part, once you outline it, we're outlining the same way that we did the bottom part of the pot. Is you're going to you can change direction on this and paint downward, just to give you nice variation or a change that your eye will pick up from the bottom part of the pot. Now I added a little bit of water to my mix, a little too much water there at the end. I added more water to it to make it flow a little better. I was actually running out of paint there, so this is a little more transparent, but I'll touch this up in a moment. I may have to wait till it dries to add another layer over the top of this, but if you see that it's a little transparent in comparison, it's because I added a touch of water to my mix and that thinned it out a little. But again, use these, whatever brush stroke direction you use down here, use the opposite up here. It will help separate the two segments. All right. Yeah, I like the floppy ear idea. Peter Cottontail says Gloria Marie. Yep, Peter Cottontail. But yeah, I like that idea of the floppy ear. Pretty cool. I like it. But okay, so what's next, Jesse? Well, what we're going to do next is we're actually going to come in here and start adding color to the rabbit. Let's see here. Let's see what should we do here. Let me take a little moment to assess. A lot of times I do this stuff on the fly, not totally on the fly, but there's different ways to approach a painting, right? You could do one step first, or there's some steps that aren't super crucial that you do in a particular order. Some steps it's more important that you follow a particular order, and some steps you can kind of be loose with. So I'm trying to think of whether we're going to go ahead and add in some flowers here before we start to paint in the rabbit. Okay, so whatever color your flowers are going to be, you're going to be using one of your smaller brushes. And the only brushes that I currently have in my water cup are the big one that I used for the background and the one that I just used to paint in the pot. Right now, what I'm going to do is I would suggest using, let's see here. Let's use one of the small brushes. I've got this number 3 round. Going to use that one for this next step. Now, whatever color your flowers are going to be, we're going to start with the petals. Okay, I'm going to stick with my yellow flowers. So I'm just dipping some paint right onto my brush here. Okay, scooping up a good amount. Now I'm going to start right here in the center, right where the edge is. I'm going to make my petals. What I'm doing, let me see if I can show you guys up close. Each of my flowers has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. As long as you've got a few petals on there, you're going to be all right. We're going to add maybe 6, maybe 7 petals to each flower. This one 6 or 7. Okay. And now these are going to require more than one coat. But there's my first flower. The center is going to be dark. The reason why I'm adding the flowers in now is so that when we come in with a brown, we don't paint underneath where the flowers are going to be. Here's my next one. I'm just using the very tip of these bristles, and I'm just creating these little petals. And again, I just want you guys to know they're going to require a second layer in a little while. Once this dries, we'll come back and do a second layer. Right now, I'm just putting them down. Don't take too much time on this step. Put your flowers down, and we're going to move on to adding color to the rabbit. Okay, here's my third flower. And maybe your rabbit has 4 flowers or 5 flowers. Who knows? Whatever you decide, however many you can fit in there, that's perfectly fine. Okay, so there's my flowers. I'm not worried about the green little leaves around there. Just put your flowers in and let's move on. Ooh. So one time, I've got this water cup holder built into my table. Over here on the side, I've got the little water cup holder. I just grab this guy and it sits right there. Okay. One time, I didn't have it in the water cup holder. And I was painting, and I had my computer right next to the cup. And guess what happened? Splash. My water spilled all over my old computer. And that did not end well. So I always have to. So what I did is I raised my computer now. It's on a higher platform. In case I ever have an accident, spills, it'll land on the table and not on the computer. But either way, I always have to remember to put this guy back. Yeah. That was not a happy accident. I don't care what Bob Ross said. What Bob Ross says about happy accidents. That was not a happy one. But all right, everyone, we got the flowers in place. Here we go. Let's add a little color to our rabbit. Now I'm going to switch. I'm going to do this with the filbert brush. Again, the filbert brushes basically have a rounded edge. Kind of does this, or, you know. Oh, and by the way, all of the brushes that I'm using today are synthetic bristle brushes. Okay. I generally work with synthetic bristle brushes. But rounded head, if you don't have one of these, don't worry about it. Use one of the flat brushes. Use whatever you've got. Your bunny could be brown. It could be black. It could be a mixture of, you know, all kinds of colors. It could be spotted. Whatever you want to do with your bunny, perfectly fine, right? But mine's brown. So I'm going to take a little bit of this brown that I've got here on my plate. This is a really dark brown. Now I could use this brown and that would work, but I want to lighten it up a little. So I bring it over to this dirty plate that I've got here. And again, the only paint that's wet here right now is the mixture that I used for the pot. All this other stuff is nice and dry from previous session. So there's my paint. I'm going to take some white. Okay, and mix the two together. And then I might even need to add a little bit of yellow to it. It just really depends on what I want this color to be. Now this brown that I'm using now is a little different than the original brown that I used from, this is an Artist Loft color. Sorry, no, this one is actually the Fine Touch. This brown that I just put on here is from the Fine Touch. I'm using all brands today. What the heck? Master's Touch, the Fine Touch, and Artist Loft. But anyway, so that's my brown. I can come over and compare it to the original. If I wanted to, I could add a little bit of yellow to it to kind of make it look a little more like that. Maybe I'll add a touch of yellow to it. Don't need a lot. Okay, maybe I bring it over to the side and then I introduce some to this mixture. What you do want to do is you want to make sure you mix enough to cover everything that's going to be this color on your rabbit. The last thing you want to do is make a mixture and you start adding it and then you run out partway through and you've got to mix it again. It's hard to match colors. Oftentimes when you mix color, it's hard to match. So make sure you mix enough. And what I say is mix more than what you'll need. That way you don't run into the chance of running out. So mix more than what you'll need and you'll be fine. Sure, you're wasting a little bit of paint, but that's how it goes. All right, there's my mixture. Now I'm going to come in here and I'll start with the body. I can start from the hip. I can work my way down. It's probably the safest way to do it, work from the top down, but there's a lot of space in between here. So I'm not too worried about it. And what I mean by safest, sometimes when you're doing let's say you're doing the bottom here and you're working on the same, and then you got to come up here. Sometimes you got to put your hand right on the canvas and you'll smear at the bottom. So typically you'll want to work your way up from top to bottom, okay, or from one side to the other. And if you're working from the side of the canvas, you work from the right side over this way. If I'm on that side, I'll work from this side, work my way back. But in this case, there's a lot of space to work with. And I can start at the bottom if I'd like. So again, using my little filbert, just come around. Again, I'm painting right over my chalk lines. It's the little outlines that I'll do at the end that are going to make the rabbit edges stand out against the background. We're going to have to layer this. We're going to have to use at least 2 layers of paint. So if you guys are new to acrylic painting, you'll notice that this first layer is going to be a little transparent, a little uneven. Don't worry about that too much. Put your layer down and we're moving on. Okay, don't stress. Don't sit there wasting too much time trying to make everything nice and even. It's not going to work. Not if you're working with acrylic paint anyway. If you're doing it in markers or crayons or whatever, or Who knows what you might be using? Pastels, etc. Those are all, they work a little differently. But for now, we're putting in this first layer, and then we move on. Okay. So on my rabbit, this little area up in here is a little lighter. This in here is a little lighter than the rest of the bottom of the face. Even up here, right underneath the flower, it's a little darker. So I'm going to take the same color that I'm working with right now, and I'm just going to kind of work my way around the flowers a little bit. I could switch over to a slightly smaller brush just to be safer. Just work my way around like this. Just being careful. Okay. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of white. Okay. So this mixture that I've got for my rabbit, I'm just going to lighten up some of it. I have all this brown that's still on my brush, so I don't need to mix it into this. Just use the side of the plate. I'll grab a little bit more white, a little more white. Again, I just used the paint that was still on the brush, right? So I'm making a lighter version of it. Now I'm going to come in here and now watch what I'm doing here. Using the little tiny edge of my brush, like this, to create these little tiny lines. I'll give you a close-up in a second. Actually, let me do this now. I'm just doing this. Kind of fanning the brush from side to side as I go, right? I'm kind of angling it. So I'm doing this, but with these little lines like that. We'll probably have to layer this part too, so fill this area in with this lighter color. And then okay. So work on that for just a moment. You got a couple of minutes before we move on to the next step. Let's see what you guys got. Let's see, Sandra Marie Ramirez, Zoe, Jada, and Mommy Sandra from North Las Vegas, Nevada. Welcome, ladies. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Linda Stewart says she loves filbert. Yep, those the filbert brushes are really nice. They're pretty versatile. The right brush, just like with anything that you're doing, whether you're working on a car, right? You're a doctor, the right set of tools does a lot of the work for you, okay? It's easier if you got the right set of tools. Always easier, and those filbert brushes are pretty nice. Jennifer Campuzano, how's it going? Let's see, Cheryl Rapp says, I'm doing egg rain instead of flowers. Fantastic. Sounds good. What's happening, Madison? 6 years old from New York. Hi, Madison. Thank you for being here. All right, here we go. Back to our little rabbit. One thing that I should have done, and I didn't do, was take the same brown that I used down in here and bring it up around the ears. So let's go ahead and do that now. Before I went into this lighter color in there, it would have made more sense to come up with the brown that I'm using all around the body and bring it up. But we can still do that now, no big deal. Or who knows, maybe your bunny has a different color in the ears. All perfectly fine. Still using my filbert brush here. You can see a little bit of the ear here around the flowers. And then so here, this bottom edge, down here has a little bit of brown. So I just hug it around that edge. Okay, kind of like that. All this, of course, is going to be pink. Other ear. I'm going to start up here with this floppy part. There we go. And in here. Don't forget, folks, I always like to remind you guys, because I know sometimes frustration starts to set in or you start to fall behind and you're like, oh my gosh, Jesse's going to finish and I'm not going to be done. Or I'm so far behind, I'm not going to get a chance to finish. Wherever you are when this is over, when I say, all right, we're done, wherever you are, you're going to be able to, as soon as we're done here, you can go continue with the recorded version of this. This is being recorded. Okay? So don't want you guys stressing. Do the best you can, try to keep up. It's always kind of fun to, where everyone just kind of, when it's over, we're all done at the same time. But if not, we'll just continue with that recorded session. Okay. I'm just going to clean up around my little nose here. Got some blue parts of the background still kind of peeking through, so just going to tighten up my edges. And then if you guys are new here or if you guys have been here for a while, you guys can help support the page by sending, tagging your pictures when you share them on your social media. That's be awesome. Share the page with your friends. You guys think some of your friends or family would enjoy this? Send them on over. Got a bunch of recorded sessions, about 80 recorded sessions, as I mentioned earlier, that you can go back and paint along with. They're all under the live tab here on the Painting with Jesse page. And about half of that, maybe not quite half, but a lot of them are also on my YouTube page. Okay, there's that. Now, what I'm going to do next, I'm going to introduce more white into this mixture because I want to make a really light version for this part in here and this part in here. So quite a bit more white. I want more of a cream color. So and I can do it right there, or I can do it to a little section down here, but I want a really light version. This could also be white. If you wanted to just do this in white, that would work too. Okay. A lot of white. We're going to come in here. So you guys might notice I'm not getting as many spammers the last couple of sessions that I've done this. I haven't had as many spammers pop up. There were a lot of spammers that were coming on here over the past months and months, trying to lure you guys to click on links and go to other websites, supposedly where you would watch this live feed. What I did is I would block these, so I blocked a lot of these people, right? I would block a bunch of folks. A bunch of spammers would jump on here. If I saw them on here, I'd block them, ban them. And what Facebook does, anytime you block someone, it puts them on a blocked list. So about a week and a half ago, I was sitting there thinking, because it's annoying. Right? I mean, it's really frustrating. It disrupts everything, and my flow sometimes going really nicely. All of a sudden, I see a spammer, and this really ruins everything. I get really frustrated. I don't want you guys clicking on any of the links, right? I'm concerned, and it's just all around annoying. So what I did, I remember that there's this list. All right, we're going to add some of this color down here in the chest too. There's this list that you can go to and unblock people, right? So you have this long list of all the people you've banned. You can go through there and find people. Maybe you decide, oh, okay, we're friends again. I'll unblock you. Because you can do this on your personal page too, not just on the business pages. So I went to that list and I started researching. I started clicking on people's profiles and going. And I found out most of them were coming from a particular part of the world. And actually, I went through like 20 profiles, and every single one was from the same part of the world, same country, we'll say. Okay? And I said, oh, very interesting. So what I did, I went to the settings on my business page, and I made it so my page will not appear in this country's when people are scrolling through, right? It won't pop up. Anybody from that country cannot access my Facebook page. You can't see it. And that seemed to have done a lot to remove these scammers from coming on here. So anyway, hopefully I'm not speaking prematurely, but looks like that probably worked. So anyhow, if you guys haven't noticed the lack of spammers over the last couple of sessions, or a lot less anyway, that's what happened. Knock on wood. My stool's made of rickety wood. Let me knock on that. But okay. So again, just like with everything else, we're going to have to come back and do a second layer over that stuff there. So I'm just laying it down and I'm moving on. Okay. Don't sit there worried about too much about getting everything perfect and even on this step. Put your first layer down. We move on. We start working on other sections. Then we come back and do a second layer over all of that, and the painting will start to pop. So put your layer down, and here we go. What I am going to do next is I'm going to add the little color in here. And this color on the nose could be a dark brown. It could be a light brown. As long as it's a color that contrasts against these two areas here, you're fine. Okay, it could even be a little pink nose. Pink nose would work too. Okay, maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'm going to mix a little tiny bit of pink, change things up just a little bit, grab some of my pink. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of this brown maybe. I'll mix the two together. Make kind of a brown-pink combo. And let's see what that looks like. A little too red. A little too pink. You know what? I'm going to leave it for now. We'll see what that looks like. Once I've come in and dialed it in a little bit more, we'll see what that looks like. I might like it. I don't know. But if I wanted to create that color there, it's just basically my brown that's in here. It's kind of a similar color to this. Slightly lighter or slightly darker. I would go with a little bit lighter. This color, whatever color you added in there, you can go slightly lighter, put it over that nose, and you'll be okay. You know what? That's what I'm going to do. Forget that pink. Not liking it. At least not the way it looks against those other colors around it. Maybe on yours, or maybe I would need to make it really pink. But let's not mess with that too much. So I'm just mixing, again, a color that's a little bit lighter than that. Just a little bit. There we go. All right. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of that pink, lighten it up with some white. So just some of this pink. Don't need a lot. Take some white, lighten that up. And then we're going to use this for the ears. Still using my filbert brush. Outline first, then we fill it in. Don't forget, folks, send me pictures of your stuff when you're all done. If you guys are painting in a group, take a picture of yourselves holding your paintings and send them over to me. Here on Facebook, you're going to send them to me on Messenger. Painting with Jesse, right? Just go over to Messenger. Just find my page, I think. All you have to do is find the page and message, right? Hit the message button on my main page. Attach your pictures and send them over. Okay? If you are on YouTube, you can come over to Facebook and do the same thing if you have a YouTube page, if you have a Facebook page, or you can just simply go over to paintingwithjesse@gmail.com. Send me an email, paintingwithjesse@gmail.com. Okay. So again, first layer of pink, we're going to layer that in too. So you guys got 2 minutes. Take a look at your bunny, assess it, see where you are, see what needs to be adjusted. And then we're going to come in and start adding some of the, actually we're going to paint in our first layer on the eggs. Okay. And then we're going to come in with the grass. By that point, the bunny's going to be dry. We're going to add some more layering to the bunny. Then we're going to start adding in some of the flowers. Okay. So again, that's the general idea of the next steps. Look at your bunny and catch on up. All right. Who else we got? But all right, guys, something that, let's see, something that I like to always talk about. I always like to bring up what's coming, right? I've already shown you a couple of the paintings that we did earlier while you guys are catching up there with your bunny. Tomorrow, I just want to remind everyone, especially those of you that weren't here earlier. Tomorrow, we paint some Valentine's gnomes, okay? Let me change the screen here for a bit, see if, there we go. Tomorrow, I'm going to be teaching you how to draw these from scratch. There are stencils available. For those of you that want to use stencils, go over to the event tab here on Painting with Jesse, and you'll see the stencils in the discussion tab. You can download them directly from there. I will also be broadcasting this to YouTube right at the same time. Okay, so that's tomorrow. And then on the 10th, and I believe the date is the 10th, but on the 10th, we got these. It's called the Horse Whisper. Okay, the Horse Whisper on the 10th. Drawing from scratch. Stencils are listed. Same thing under the discussion tab on that main page. Okay, so take a moment, guys. Take a moment. Get yourselves caught up with that rabbit, and then we're going to continue. Okay, let's color some Easter eggs. Okay, I've got a pink one down there. I've got a yellow one. I'll start with the pink one. Okay, and I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to use my filbert still. This filbert brush is going to get a lot of use today. Okay, so a little pink. Now, if I want to lighten it up, make it look more like that color there, I would use a little bit of white. I'm going to use this pink today. This first color is all going to be flat, all one even pink color. When it dries, we'll come in and do the shaded part underneath. Let me turn this towards me just a bit. We're going to start picking things up a bit so we don't go for too long. When you're working your edges, go slowly. You move too fast, you're going to find that your egg slowly starts getting larger and larger. Before you know it, you'll end up with a really large egg. So work through that slowly. I'm going to clean up my brush. Now I'm going to take some yellow, do the same thing with the yellow one over to the side. Okay, scooped up some yellow. My hand here, I place it down on the table because I'm painting on an easel here. I can use this hand. It's not my non-painting hand. I place it on the table. Whoops, let me get back to, oops, not that one. Too big. There we go. So take this hand right here, place it on my table. Now I can use my painting hand, place it right on top of the wrist for support. Okay, now it stabilizes my hand. Everybody's hand shakes a little, right? Some more than others. There's little tricks that can help stabilize your brush strokes a little. Or if you're tired sometimes doing this for too long. People often complain to me, oh, Jesse, this is a workout, especially when we're doing the background. But using your non-painting hand to stabilize your painting hand is one way to minimize hand shake. All right. Now, my egg looks a little bit greenish right now because it's blending in with that background, that blue background. I'm not worried about it. That'll get fixed later on. Okay, so put your layer down. Whatever color your background is, you might be able to see some of that coming through. Don't stress about that too much. Get your color of your egg in, and then we'll move on to the next egg, and then we'll come back later on and do a second, maybe even third layer on these eggs. Okay, now, orange, just like on the original, I'm going to stick with the color scheme. I've got this orange. This is probably a brighter orange than what I've got over there. No worries. Make sure you guys watch, pay close attention to the way I hold the brushes and things like that. Oftentimes, you guys are kind of like me, you'll learn. I think most everyone's like this, right? You'll learn as much from simply watching what I'm doing than from listening to what I'm saying. It's a combination of both. But sometimes I'll hold the brush a little closer, like when I'm doing edging, the edges of things, right? Things like that, right? Because I have to, the closer I hold it to the tip, the more stable my brush stroke becomes. I can also use my finger. I place it on the canvas and use that to kind of guide my hand. I can do that with my palm as long as it's dry. And kind of do this, right? Let's say I'm doing a nice long line. And you'll see this when we're doing the flowers, but long lines like that, use my finger, okay? And then it stabilizes my hand. And other times I'll hold the brush back here. Like when I paint the inside of these eggs, I can kind of relax a little and loosen up the grip, okay? All right. Debating whether I should make this egg green or not. Kind of blends in a little bit too much with that grass. That's all right. Let's make it green. Why not? Got some green right here. And you guys already know how this is going to work. So watch. Now I can take my pinky. I place it right up on my canvas. Do the edge first. Also come down here right above the pot. Do that edge also. And away we go. Nice and easy. Nothing fancy about this. Okay? Try to cover your pencil lines and your chalk lines, or chalk lines, or charcoal, or whatever it is that you drew with. Come right up to that edge. Go right over your lines. If you're using chalk, it's a little easier because if you have any of those chalk lines popping out, like I do around the ears, I can clean those up later with paper towel and water. Okay? Okay. You guys got about 2 minutes. What time do we got? 4:27 means we've been painting for about an hour and a half. And I got some chalk on my pants here. About an hour and a half means we got about an hour and 15 minutes, an hour and 30 minutes or so before we finish. Okay. So, all right. I think you guys must be concentrating. All right, guys. You guys got about a minute. Now, for those of you that are able to, this information is listed in the description of the video. If you were to go to the description of this, you would see this. I have a virtual tip jar. And for those of you that are able to, you can help support the channel by going over to Venmo or PayPal. Okay, Venmo, PayPal. It's under Painting with Jesse, at Painting with Jesse, all one word on both of those. Okay, you'll see my picture at the top of the account. And then there's a Zelle. My Zelle number is 951, simply my phone number, 951-217-2237. For those of you that can and would like to help support the channel that way, that'd be fantastic. It's greatly appreciated. Okay, but that is my virtual tip jar. Okay. And then, of course, everything helps. The likes, the comments, the sharing, all of it is appreciated. Again, the information is listed in the description of the video. So, all right, let's see some comments. What's happening, Jennifer Campuzano? How are you? Let's see. Christine Wilson. How's it going, Christine? Let's see. Who else? Amanda Rogers. Hannon says, am from Florida and 10, about to be 11 years old. Okay, so I'm assuming you're using your mom's account, right? So I don't think you put your name on there, but anyway, hello to you. Let's see. Priscilla. Oh, I said hello to Madison, 6-year-old from New York. All right, guys, here we go. Let's continue now. So we got the first layer of paint on the eggs, right? What I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a little bit of black for the eyes. Okay, I'm going to use my round 0 brush, my smallest brush in the group, this little pointy thing. Okay, just going to dip it right into my black paint. Now I've got some pretty fluid black paint here. Artist Loft brand, pretty smooth, pretty easy to work with. But if you have paint that's a little on the thicker side, you want to add a little bit of water first. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw the outside of the eyes first. And you always, when you're doing eyes, you want to make them smaller, a little smaller than what you think you're going to need. The reason why you go smaller first is because that's easy to adjust and make larger if you decide you want them bigger. You make them too big from the get-go, that can be a little hard to fix. So always smaller. It's kind of like when we do trees and branches and things like that. Make the eyes a little smaller than what you think you're going to need. Okay, so for example, something like this, I'd look at it, then I'd go, oh, okay, I can make them a little bit larger. And then I can just kind of go around the outside and adjust. Okay, make, kind of, but again, make them a little smaller. You'd be surprised how quickly things like eyes or branches, etc., will get out of hand. And before you know it, they're too large. It can be fixed. You can erase, right? You can remove paint. But that's a lot harder to do. All right. Let me look at my eyes here. I'm not going to add the eyelash. You know what? What the heck? Let's add the eyelashes. I got 1, 2, 3 little eyelashes. Over here. 1, 2, 3. Okay. My little bunny rabbit's starting to look like a bunny rabbit. Okay. Okay, let me change the views on this thing. Back to that. So there's my little bunny rabbit. Okay. So you smeared some paint, huh, Penny? It's okay. Yeah, accidents are going to happen. Let's see. Kaylin, 10 years old from Pennsylvania. Hi, Kaylin. Thank you for being here. Yeah, bunnies are fun to paint. Bunnies are pretty cool. So we're not going to be adding the little highlights in the eyes just yet. We're going to wait on those. Okay. What we are going to be doing here is we're going to start working in the stems for these flowers up on top. As we start to work in those stems, and maybe we'll even get to those flowers, the eggs are drying. All the layer on our eggs was drying. Then we can do a second layer over that and then start to work in the grass. Okay, but we'll see where we are here in just a moment. What I want you to do, so I've got two greens here. Okay, if you've only got one, that's okay. Don't worry about it too much. We can work with whatever you've got. But I've got two greens here. If you've got a darker green, you can lighten it up by adding a little bit of white to it, making a mixture that's similar to this. We'll be using different shades of green in our painting. But you can, whatever green you've got, you can make it, you can vary it by adding white to it or even blue to it to darken it up. A little touch of black or brown, just a little tiny bit will tone it to the darker side a bit. Okay, but what I want you to do is you're going to take one of your small brushes. I would recommend the filbert or a flat. So we're going to make these stems here in a moment. You can also use one of your round brushes. Okay, something like this, like the filbert. You can use the really skinny part of that edge to create a stem. So for example, I'm going to take some of this green here over to the side of the plate. I'm going to dip my brush into the water, right into that water cup. So there's water in my brush. I mix it in with my paint. Okay. It's going to help the paint flow. Now what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to press that brush up against the canvas, the plate, to make that edge really skinny. Now I'm going to work on that stem right there. So I'm going to start at the top. That stem's going to come down here somewhere. Okay. So using my pinky, I'm barely touching the canvas. I hold my breath when I do that. You might have to keep from moving it. If I breathe a little, it might shake a little, right? So using my pinky there as a guide, or I can use the palm of my hand. I hold the brush towards the tip, and I just barely touching the canvas, and I make my first stem. Now I can make it a little longer, a little shorter, doesn't really matter too much. But here we go again, same thing. Press down on that plate. Let's see, we're gonna make that one that looks like it's coming off the top of our little rabbit's head. Careful, if your flowers are still wet, like mine are, okay, you don't want to smear that. I'm gonna take my non-drawing hand, I place it right on the canvas here where it's still dry. I want to avoid that though, that green stem that I just put in. Right up in here somewhere. Okay. Do your best to make them as skinny as you possibly can. If you need to make them a little bit wider, thicker, you can do that afterwards. But I always tell people, excuse me, when you're working on stems, make them as skinny as possible. Err on the side of making them too small, because that's easier to fix. Now we got this one that's right here. Okay, all this is nice and dry. I can just placing my pinky, sits right on the canvas, stabilizes my hand. Okay, find my little spot. Now, if you're having a hard time making that paint flow when you do this, you might want to add a little bit of water to your paint. Okay, add a little bit of extra water to your paint. Not a lot, but a little bit. Mix it in real nicely. Do this with the water. Now it's a lot easier to draw. When you barely touch the canvas, that paint gets right onto that, flows right onto it nice and easily. Okay, so work on that for a moment. A few little stems in there. Hi, Robbie. Robbie's asking, is there a template for the bunny? There sure is. Okay, on the event tab, on the event page, if you go to the discussion tab, scroll down towards the bottom there, or somewhere in there, you'll see I've posted them a couple of times. The bunny stencils will be there. the bunny and the pot. If you have a hard time downloading it from there, you can also email me directly at paintingwithjesse@gmail.com. That's Jesse, Jesse, paintingwithjesse@gmail.com. And I will send you the PDF file for that, okay? There you go, Linda. Yep, that's what you want to do. You want to flatten that brush. By flattening the brush, makes that edge nice and skinny. Now, it's really easy to work in, or a lot easier to work in those stems. Now, the other thing that I would always recommend, often recommend, is before you go to your canvas and do those stems, do it on a piece of paper. Do it on a plate, right? Practice a little bit first, get the feel for it, and then commit to doing it on your canvas. And then once you're moving on that canvas, just go. Don't stop or you're going to make it choppy. Commit to your stem, just go. Okay, once you start, go all the way through. Okay, so there's a few little stems. I'm going to add one more down here to the edge, and then I'm going to add the green layer that's going to make up, eventually is going to be our grass. Okay, so right over here, I got a little stem that's kind of popping out. Again, I'm using my finger here to guide my hand a bit, support it, stabilize it. I mean, you can have more stems, right? Some of you are going to have, let's see here. We'll do those last, the two stems on the bottom. We'll do those last. I don't even know if I'm going to include those. I'm not sure that I like those little flowers down there. We'll see. But here's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to go over to my 1/2-inch brush. This guy right here. And if you have a bigger brush than this, I wouldn't recommend the 2-inch brush, but if you've got a bigger brush than this one, slightly bigger, 3/4 of an inch brush, you could use that. But I'm going to take this light green. Now, if you don't have a light green, mix a little bit of white with your basic green, and you're going to come in here and you're going to do this. Okay, you're going to, right here next to your egg somewhere, you're going to draw a little line across. And over here on the other side of your pot, you're going to do the same thing. Okay, that's the base, the horizon line for your grass. There's going to be all kinds of grass blades over the top of that, coming out over the top of that. But once you've got that, go around your egg, go around your pot, and you notice what I'm doing here. As I'm coming around the pot and the eggs and everything, I flatten the brush. I'm using the wide part of the brush. You want to be a little more careful and use the skinny part of the brush and do this. Outline first. So you use the skinny part of the brush, right? To outline everything first. It's the safer way to do it. Less likely you're going to accidentally put paint on the inside of your egg. Okay, once you've done that, go through there. And what I recommend is this. Once you've got everything outlined, you can do this using brush strokes, kind of basically vertical brush strokes, but they're slightly angled, kind of like this. You're going to cover all this in this lighter green. And you can make it a little bit slightly, use slightly thicker paint for this. Whoops, picked up some red there. Just using my paper towel to wipe that off. No problem. Nothing to it. Okay, back to my grass. Again, slightly thick paint on my brush, painting using downward strokes. But this is the base for my grass blades. The very last step, when I'm all done with this painting, after I sign it, I'm going to take some green and paint the bottom edge, right? Since I painted around the edges, right and left. Now that's just a preference. People don't have to paint their edges. It's not something that's, it's not like some written rule somewhere. Some people like to paint their edges when they're painting on canvas and some don't. It's all good. So here we go, all the way around. Again, slightly thick. Here up towards the top, I can kind of start doing this. Using the flat part of the brush again. Press it down against the plate. Pick up some paint. Start adding in these little stems. You notice I'm working kind of quickly, right? They don't have to be super perfect or refined or anything like that. We're going to be painting with the darker green over that in a little bit. Just going around and doing this. And then down here, you can do the same thing. Just start bringing these skinnier lines, even though they're not going to be easy to see up against the canvas. Sorry, against the green layer that we just added. You can still pick them up a little bit, and when we start to add the other green, in a little while, they will make a difference. So now I also want to add this up in here, underneath the pot. Then where else? Up here. Right now I'm just going to be doing it around the eggs, above a little bit. Actually, I'm not going to do anything on the bunny just yet because we've got to paint all that in there. Around here, maybe a few of them peek out around the eggs a bit. But I put some in here, but I don't need those. I'm going to take those off because we're going to come back in and do another layer of paint there on our rabbit. Get that green out of there. All right. While you guys are doing that, let's see. We'll leave all that for later. I was going to clean up a little bit. I was going to clean up around some of my pencil lines, but I'm chalk. But I decided to not worry about it right now. Okay. You got it, Robbie. No worries. Robin, let's see. Robin, I thought I saw you had a question. Oh, e-transfer. So, Robin, for all of my Canadian friends that are hanging out, I don't have e-transfer yet. I'm working on that. I'm out here in California, and I know there's a little bit of I've had some people send me money through e-transfer, but I wasn't able to get it. So I'm working on that. There's so many things going on behind the scenes with this stuff that, sometimes it's hard to get to everything, but I am working on an e-transfer process. So I'll keep you guys updated when that happens. I'll post it on my virtual tip jar information, but thank you so much for asking. Okay. Absolutely appreciate it. Let's see. All right, guys. It looks like you guys are all busy painting. So, oh, the whimsical tree on the wall. Are you talking about? Let's see. Angel Gizmo says, can you, Jesse, please, when can we do that whimsical tree on the wall? Are you talking about this one here? Maybe you can't even see. Oh, this one. You're talking about this one. Super popular. A lot of people ask for that. It's coming. Likely going to be right towards the end of spring, maybe middle of spring. I know it's going to come up really quickly, but that's a really super popular request. That will be coming up. Okay? Absolutely. I love that one. What's happening, Jennifer? All right, here we go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in here and start adding some of this dark blades of grass down there. So again, I've got, even though we're going to add more of these later, for now I want to start this. I've got this dark green paint, right? The darker green. If you want to make yours a little darker, you can by adding, if you have a dark blue, you can add a little bit of a dark blue, a touch of brown, or just a touch of black will also help do the trick. But I want to start doing this. Now you want to work kind of quickly. So for some of you, this step right here, you're gonna refine this on your own when we're all done if you don't get enough of these in there. Okay? But I'm just going through again my 1/2 inch brush And then just making these long grass blades, just adding a whole bunch of these. This is the tedious part of this painting. You can also make thick grass blades if you want. Vary the density a little bit. Some are thin, some are thicker. Now, I'm not going to do any of these over my eggs yet. Got to add another layer of paint over those eggs. So if you guys hear little kids in the background, I have my studio in a professional building in the town where I live, and sometimes the hallway gets a little busy. So, but anyway, if you guys hear any of that, no big deal though. So let the density vary a little. Some thinner grass blades, some thicker ones. It's all good. And we're not going to do this all in one shot. We're going to do a bunch of these, and we're going to move on. Do the eggs, another layer on the eggs, another layer on the bunny. Start adding in those flowers. Lots of little steps involved in these. The trick with grass is the density, the layers. You want to layer a bit to keep it from looking flat. You'll have to do layers. Layers of varying shades of whatever colors you guys are using. Some are going to be a little darker, some are going to be lighter, and then lots of them overlap. They're not all perfectly straight, right? Not if it's natural grass. Grass blades go in different directions. Slightly different directions. Again, don't do anything over the eggs yet. Right now we're just working around the eggs. So don't stress too much over this step. Again, when we're done, when I call it, you're going to be able to go back and add as much grass as you want. This is actually a pretty basic, kind of a no-brainer process. You could leave this for last if you wanted to. I want to give you guys the idea. Okay, so there's that. Take about a minute on that. We're at 4:51 my time. The horses. Of course, that's on the 10th. Okay, we're doing these next week. What is that, 5 days from today? For those of you that want to do the horses with me, I'll be drawing these from scratch, but I think I've already talked about this, but there are stencils available for those who would rather use a stencil. The stencils, for those of you that are going to use those stencils, every time I do a stencil, when I do an original, whenever I do a painting, what I'll do is I'll take that painting and then do the stencils off of the painting. I never do the stencils first. I always paint it, then I do the stencils. So what happens is you basically, if you're able to download and print the stencils exactly as I provide them, they're right off of the original painting so that the size will match on a 16 by 20 inch canvas. This is a 16 by 20 inch canvas. Both the stencils that I put out for these are on a regular basic piece of paper. What is that? 8.5 by 11. So if you were to use an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, download the stencils and then print them on those, they should come out the exact size as on the original. Okay, for those of you that ever use my stencils, that's how I do it. I'll take the original painting that I make, right? I do all that from scratch. Then I take and do the stencils off of that. So it makes it a little bit easier for those of you that are using the same size canvas as I am. If you're not using the same size canvas, then you have to modify your stencil a little bit, either shrink it or enlarge it. And that can be a little tricky sometimes. But all right, here we go. Another layer of paint on the eggs. I'm going to start with the pink. Okay, just going to come in here using my filbert brush. I cleaned it up a little. Now watch what I'm doing. This second layer, I'm only applying it to the, I'm finding a little area down here towards the bottom. I'm marking it off across, and I'm only adding this pink above that line. So what it does is it leaves a little bit of a darker area below, because this color here has only one coat of paint, and that coat of paint is blending in with the background. So it creates a different color than this new layer of pink that I'm adding. If this isn't dark enough, then I can always come back in and add a darker version of the pink. But I actually kind of like the way that looks without having to add another layer of a darker shade of pink in there. Okay, that's one way to shade without actually having to shade, if that made any sense. So I'm going to do the same thing for the yellow. Same brush, clean it up a little bit. I'm going to grab some yellow. Watch what I'm doing again. So I'm going to outline a little. The important part here is marking off where you want the shaded area to start. So using the skinny part of the brush, come across like this. And notice I'm curving, right? I'm following the curvature of the egg. Very important. You give it some dimension, even though it's a subtle curve, you give it a little bit of dimension by doing that. Then I'm going to paint above that line. So what you've got again is a difference in color. I'm just using my finger here to make sure I'm not muted over here. Okay, good. Using my finger here to clean up the edge a bit. I had a little too much paint there. So again, a little more yellow on the top, a little bit of a different color down here. For my yellow egg, I am going to add a slightly darker version of this yellow underneath. I'm going to take the same yellow that I'm using. I could do this with black or brown. I'll take a little bit of black, little tiny bit, don't need much. Mix it in with that yellow to create a darker version of that yellow. Again, you can use brown also. So this creates kind of a muddy yellow. And I'm going to use this as the color for the shaded area down here. The reason why I'm doing it on the yellow and not on this one necessarily is because the blue and yellow combination, so the yellow layer that I put up, first layer of yellow that I put on there mixed in with the blue background and created a green color. I don't want green. Over here, the pink and the blue created a bit of a purple, and that purple looks a little darker, so it kind of works with that layer to create a shaded look. Not enough probably, but it still works. Here, I didn't want green for my shade. I wanted a darker yellow. So there we go. Okay, orange. Let's clean up the brush a bit, grab some orange, and here we go. Outline first. Color it in. Again, your outlining is important, but it helps keep you within your lines. All right. Okay, green. All right. So I have a little bit of purple over here. Take a little bit of pink, a little bit of that purple. You do this with black or brown even. I'm actually going to take a touch of black. So a tiny bit of black, purple, and a little bit of pink. Or you can do just pink and purple, or sorry, pink and black. Now my shaded area is more prominent. Okay. Now when I come in and add grass blades underneath all around that, you'll use those grass blades to cover up your edges. Okay, so don't have to worry too much about the edge being perfectly refined. All right. Robin says I'm going to do tulips on the right and hyacinths on the left. Love it. Love it. Again, folks, don't forget to share your paintings with me. Okay, I'd love to see your masterpieces. I like to share them with everyone so everyone gets a chance to see all the creativity and all the different versions of paintings, right? We're all doing the same painting, essentially, but they all look a little different. Everyone makes a different version of what we have up here. So that's really cool. Even the two paintings that I'm working up here, I don't stress about trying to create the exact version that I have over there. We could, right? I could break out my paints and make sure they're all matching and everything else beforehand. But that's not really what I'm trying to show you guys here. Anyhow, it's really cool to see everybody's versions of these paintings. Okay, all right, everyone. So let us put in some flowers. Okay, and I apologize if we're moving a little bit quickly here. We've only got about an hour. Okay, and I want to make sure we get everything. And if you fall behind, most of the stuff that I'm going to do next isn't super crucial that you have to do it now, or else you can't do it later. Right? There are some steps on some paintings that I'll tell you, hey, you guys got to make sure you guys get this in before you go to the next step. In this case, most of the important steps are done. We've got all the first layers of everything down. Now we can layer over the top of them. So if you're a little bit behind, don't stress. Do your best, and then just know that you're going to be able to go back and paint with the recorded session. Okay, you'll go over to the recorded session when this is all over. So, okay, let's put in some flowers. I'm going to start with the pink flower up on top. Now, I normally tell you, hey, if you're working with pink or red or whatever color it is, you want to get all those areas in at one time. So in other words, you don't want to be jumping around. You want to minimize, let's say you got this pink area here and another pink area over here and a pink area over here. You don't want to go pink and then go to your red area and then go to your black area and then go back to pink. It's a little less, you could. It's a little less efficient that way. But when I did the egg, I could have come up here and done the pink flowers also, right? But because we're doing the eggs all at one time, it doesn't make too much of a difference. But for using the same color, let's say we're using the same color for this egg and those two flowers, I try to generally do everything at the same time. But all right, here we go. Little flower up in here. Okay, so we've got a center that's going to be over here somewhere. We'll even start with that. Even though my center is going to be a little different in color, I'm just going to put in the little center. That would indicate that. You know what, just to make sure that you guys can see it, I'm going to grab a little bit of red with one of my other brushes, and I'm just going to pop it in here like this. So there's a contrast between the pink that I'm about to put down and the red that's on there now. Okay, once we do that, we can add in some petals. I'm using my filbert and kind of do this. Okay, come over to the other side. And if you have a different way of doing flowers, you got your own. Somebody already mentioned, hey, I'm doing this kind of flower or that kind of flower. You got your own flowers that you'd like to make, please feel free to change it up. If you're going to create flowers like mine, then just follow the steps. In this case, I'm going to use the narrow part of my brush, the skinny part, right? I press it down against the plate. And if you have a smaller brush, if you'd like to use a smaller brush than the one that I'm using, it's safer to use smaller brushes. Okay? And do a little drawing right here. And then I fill that in. Okay? Come up here, and I'm using the broadside to make that long petal. There's different ways to use these brushes. Okay? Now I'm going to come over here. And then over here. Still working with that filbert brush. So this is what we've got so far. These right here, these petals. So these three up on top are this, this, and this. Okay, of course, this one here is that. These two here are those two. We just got these two to complete the flower all the way around. I'm going to start with this little kind of a pudgy one. It's kind of facing us. It's pointed forward, let's say. A little hard to tell. This is kind of a wide, pudgy petal. Then I'm going to come up and do that one. This one here. Using the edge of my brush. Okay, using the edge now. And then I curve that. There we go. If it looks anything like that, you're in business. And if it looks totally different, you're still in business. You're going to be all right. It'll be altogether completely different, as I said. Just make it work. All right, moving on over to this flower. Here we go. Start with the little center. Okay, I'm going to use my little one. This is my number 3 round brush. I'm just going to create the center. Okay, of course, that is that. Okay, I'm going to start using the flat part of my brush. Come over to the side using my pinky here to stabilize my hand. And come across. Now I bring it down a little bit. Come back. Okay. Add a little bit of a base right there. Come back out. Go down. This one's kind of a chubby one. Or it's more like 2 petals combined right here. Have fun with this, folks. Don't stress too much. Don't stress about trying to make them look just like mine. Okay. From here, using the broad part of the brush, just going to press down a little bit. Come out. This will benefit for those of you that are watching watching this on YouTube. This is where it would really benefit you to be able to stop and go back, and you're trying to match these exactly. You know what I mean? That's where it would be good. Otherwise, if you're watching the live version and you cannot do that, well, do your best, or come back and watch the recorded session. So here we go on this one, just like this. Come out. Now I'm using just the tip of the bristles. Okay. So we got kind of. Let's start with this one right here. These two. You're gonna sit up there. Using the edge of my brush. Okay. It's a little hard trying to keep from blocking you, but it's kind of hard. Blocking the camera, it's kind of difficult to do. Using my hand here, press it up against here to stabilize a little bit. My angle's a little awkward, right? Usually I'm right in front of the canvas. I'm over to the side a bit, so it makes it a little tricky, but you guys get the idea. Right over here, little tiny one, this guy right here. Look at the way I'm holding the brush towards the back of the handle. Okay, nothing too fancy. Sometimes I'll move up like this, right? You guys see that when I'm trying to do detail. One more, right in here. And you guys notice my stem doesn't connect yet. Neither does it connect over there either. We'll connect those in a little bit. Look at your little flower, make any adjustments that you've got to make. Now, obviously, these are slightly different in color than those. Those are a little lighter with some darker purple accents. We'll do that later. Okay, but we're moving on here. Take your brush, clean it up a little. We're going to make a couple of orange yellow flowers. Actually, I'm just going to use orange for mine. What's happening, Susan? What's up, Aaron? What's happening, Aaron? How are you? Here we go. A little bit of orange. Actually, we're going to start with the center. We'll start with the center first. A little brown center. Okay, so just grabbing a little touch of brown here with my round brush. Just a little bit of brown. A little brown number 3. I'm going to come up here. And there's my center. Nothing fancy. Now this flower should be a little easier to make. Just going to grab, still using my filbert here. Now if I had a smaller filbert in the group, and I do have a smaller filbert in my studio, but because I give you guys a specific number. Mine's a number 8, yours is a number 5. If you got the 5. I don't know if you guys went specifically with my supplies list. The number 5 would be a little bit smaller. But either way, we're okay. So we're going to go like this. Using the, press down on the bristles like this, flatten them out to make this skinny, a little easier to work with. So we're just going to pick a spot. We can start right here on the right-hand side. Okay. Now, what I do is I press down a little bit as I come out towards the edge of the petal. I will pull away a little bit. I'll pull away. So it makes that point a little bit smaller. Come out, down. Okay, another one. So press in a little bit when you're close to the center. Work your way out and pull away. As you pull away, it's pointy. Easy way to make pointy anything, petals, branches, etc. Okay, let's continue. Press down, come out, pull away. Press down, come out, maybe angle it down a little bit, pull away. Okay, here we go. Now there's a couple you can see over the top. You can just see the edge of them. We'll do those with a smaller brush in a second. And also these 3 up on top. The ones that are peeking up over the top, you just see a little bit of them. I'm going to switch over to my round brush, this little guy here. Okay. And just dip it right into my orange. Okay, right over the top. All I'm doing is this. You can see them over the top, right? And then this one over here, kind of like that. Then just make sure they all connect to the center, and we're good. Okay. So I'm not going to add these down here. Okay, I kind of like the way this looks without them. But if you want to add those, it's basically the same process that we just did. Okay, so again, basically these flowers, except for this one's a little smaller, they're basically the same thing that I just showed you. Okay, you can always cut, and then outlining them in a different color, like I did some of these purple ones, would make them stand out. With the orange, I didn't do it on the original, but we could come in with a little bit of the light brown and outline the edges, and they will really start to pop. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take some of this green and just finish off the stems here. I'm using my little round brush. Okay, here also. Okay. Okay, so you guys got about 2 minutes before we move on. 2 minutes, 2 minutes. We still got a good little group hanging out right now. Usually by about this time, you know, is actually about halfway through the sessions when we have the most people hanging out. But as long as, you know, it starts to get a little further into the session, people start to cut out, got dinner to do, to make, et cetera, et cetera. But we still got a pretty good group. Good little group. So I just want to say thank you to all of you that are still hanging out here. And don't forget, folks, please help the page grow by sharing it, by liking it. If you post your pictures on Facebook or whatever social media you're on, Instagram, I'm also on Instagram, same name, Painting with Jesse. Hoping to pretty soon start producing stuff on TikTok also. Maybe some drawing tutorials over there. We'll see. But whatever platform, social media platform you're on, Facebook and Instagram, especially when you guys share your pictures, if you guys could please tag my page, Painting with Jesse, that would be fantastic. You guys will help the page grow. Okay, and again, if you haven't yet, like and follow the page. That would be awesome. Linda Stewart, still hanging out in Texas. Awesome. But okay, everyone, let's go ahead, and what I'm going to do next is I'm going to start working on the second layer of colors on the bunny. Okay, second layer of everything. Now we could have done the little, actually, because we got some green right now that we were just working with, I'm going to go ahead and add the little leaves here around the bunny, and you can do those with your light green or dark green, whatever green you have. I'll use a little combination of both. Just going to mix them up a little, make them kind of make a swirly combination of the two. Using my round number 3, I'm just going to come in here and just pick a few little spots. When I do my second layer of paint on the rabbit, I'll have to go around those areas, but no big deal. We can do that. Few little green areas, maybe in between some of the flowers if you have some spaces. And then I'm going to take a little brown. Take a little bit of brown. You can also use black. Brown, maybe brown and black mixture. So I can do a little center part of those flowers. So brown and black, mix the two together. And put these little dots right in the center. Of course, we're also going to do a second layer of yellow over those flowers. We'll wait on that. But here we go. What I'm going to do is, let's see, I'm going to take my filbert brush. Let's clean it up because it's got another color of paint in there. I'm going to make another mixture of this brown color. Now, here's where you would decide. Is it too dark? Is it too light? You can still change the color of your bunny. Whatever you did on this first layer, you can tone it up or tone it down by adding a darker color or by adding white. right? So if I wanted a lighter bunny, which I think I'll probably do here, I'm going to take a little bit of my brown. And again, don't forget, you want to mix enough of this color to cover everything all at one shot. You don't want to run out of your paint partway through, so you don't have to mix it again. So take your, in this case, since I'm going to lighten mine up a little, just taking some brown and some white. I want a lighter shade of that. Not too much lighter, just a little bit. Also going to add a little bit of yellow, just a touch. The main thing, though, whatever color you're using, again, you want to mix enough. It's better to have some left over than to run out partway through. No fun to run out partway through. But here we go. There's my color. I like it. Maybe a touch darker. I had some right here, right next to my mix, and I was going over to my other plate to grab some more. Here we go. That's like, I like this a little better. And you don't, so if you're using a different color on this next layer, you can do it a couple of ways. You can do it where you leave a little bit of the original color underneath peeking through your brush strokes. Again, I'm using my filbert. I'm using the skinny part of my brush. So when I do this, I can leave a little bit of the original color underneath, peeking through, kind of randomly, between some of those brush strokes. Creates kind of a cool little fluffy, furry look. Okay, so, or you can just cover it up completely, right? You can cover up that first layer completely. Come around like this. Watch out for the egg. Don't want to cover up my egg because that egg's in front, slightly in front of my bunny. Okay, come over and do this. Now on this second layer, the bunny starts to look really nice. More uniform in color. Deeper tones. Okay, I'm going to go up into those ears doing the same thing. And then I'm just going to mention again, I know I mentioned it the last couple of sessions we've done, we're still refining things. Lots of you have asked for paint kits. Do I offer paint kits? Takes a lot of the guesswork out of supplies and things like that. I am currently in the process of providing paint kits for some of my, for maybe not all the sessions. We'll see how it works out. But most of my art sessions. Working with a new website called zoompartyroom.com. A lot of the stuff on there is still in the works, the pricing and that's on there and stuff like that. We're still refining things. But I am going to be offering paint kits for those of you that would rather use a paint kit. Paint kit will have things like paint, the canvases, brushes, stencils, all the good stuff. Maybe there's going to be a subscription model. We'll see. But as far as the way we're doing things now, that's not going to change. For those of you who still want to do everything freehand and want to come in and paint with your own supplies and stuff, I think that's always going to be part of how I do things. But just as an option for somebody that would rather use a paint kit, again, make it easier. Going to be doing that here. And more details to come soon. But all right, there's the bunny. It looks nice and fluffy now. If I give you guys a close-up, still need to do this part and this in here. But it looks a lot fluffier now with that second coat. And then there's a little tiny outline that I do with the round zero brush around the edges. That makes it really stand out. Underneath the nose, the mouth, and all that stuff, we do that with that round zero. Okay, so, but there's that. I'm going to take my brush, grab some more white. I want to make that mixture that's on the chest. So grabbing some white, bringing it over here. Find a little section somewhere in here. There we go. Down in here. Same process. Using the skinny part of my brush, I can let some of that first layer peek through in some areas. Anyway, folks, make sure you guys are following the page, both the Facebook page and my YouTube channel. Those of you that are on YouTube, I'm going to be updating things more regularly over there too, to kind of post, hey, this is coming up on YouTube. So that you guys can also kind of keep, abreast of everything that's going on. So I'm going to lighten up my color a little bit more, just a touch. I'm going to use this in here. Put it down here. So I'm going to cover up the mouth just a bit on mine, because so this line, this that I made originally, I'm going to cover it up a little bit. So when I come in with my round brush, my dark color, I'm going to drop it down a little bit more. Okay. You don't need to do this. I want to make it a little smaller, a little lower towards this bottom edge. So I just covered that up a little bit. Okay. Don't worry about it. That's how I'm going to use this here to adjust it and bring this line down in a little bit. But okay. Now, the top part in here. It's a little darker, right? So, skinny part of my brush, here we go. Same rules apply. Let some of that stuff underneath peek through a little. Lastly, we're going to do the nose. Whoops, let me come over on this side. Come around the nose a little bit down. There we go. The nose. A little more brown this time. Any areas that maybe you're having a hard time make stand out, you can always outline them. Okay, you could always add a little bit of an outline in a contrasting color, and they will stand out. Here's my little nose. When I add the little dark color underneath the nose and the mouth and everything, all that's going to change. You're going to see the nose stand out quite a bit. Okay. Take a moment on that. Awesome, Linda Stewart. Fantastic. Cool, Linda. I'm going to you guys please make sure that you send me those pictures. Awesome. I'd love to see that. Love to see that. Okay, let's take a little bit of pink. We're gonna take a little bit of pink now. Light pink for the ears. A lot of steps. I know. Somebody mentioned in the comments, holy crap, that's a lot of work. I'm assuming they're talking about what we're doing right now. Yeah, a lot of little steps. There's no, you can cut little corners here and there, but for the most part, you want to produce nice art, you're gonna require a little patience and you go through quite a few steps. Even on something that looks kind of simple, right? The layering that's involved can sometimes seem daunting, but it is super satisfying when you're done. Okay. A couple things I'm going to do right now. I'm going to take my zero round brush. I'm going to dip it right into my white paint. Right here, right over the top of my eye. We're going to add a little reflection, both sides. Now my little bunny's eyes came alive. Okay, look at that. Little bunny's happy now. Easter's coming around. She's got her little Easter eggs ready to go. He, she, whatever your bunny is, right? But those little highlights make the eyes really stand out. So now I'm going to take some brown. Okay, a little bit of brown, just brown with some water. Let's see here. Where's my brown on this other plate? So brown right here, just going to scoop up some of this, bring it over to the side using my zero brush, little number 0. Dip it into my water cup. So I dipped into my water cup, brought that water over, bring that water over, and now we're mixing it with my brown paint. Mixing it. Okay. What that water is going to do is it's going to help me make really skinny lines. You don't want it super saturated with water where it becomes runny, but we do want it to make it really nice and flowy. And what I'm doing now is I'm spinning my brush. When I push it up against the plate, I spin it. What that does is it makes my point really, really small. When I watch what happens here, do my little bottom part of the nose. Also do this in black if you want. The brown you use is too dark. You could, excuse me, you could then do this in black. Okay, so here we go, and then we're going to come down the middle. Now, I said I was going to bring this down a little. A little opening in the mouth. Okay, now I'm going to take a little touch of black. I want a bigger contrast, greater contrast there. So the brown that's on my brush and the black that I just grabbed. Now I'm going to come in here. There we go. All right. Now what I'm going to do with this color is I'm going to outline. Starting in here. Not every single bit of my edges, but just kind of randomly going through with this black-brown mixture. And just adding some outlines. Not everything has to be outlined. Here underneath, whiskers. Okay. I'm gonna see if I can hold this near the camera and do this at the same time. Okay, see if we can do this. So I'm going to come over here, and again, you don't have to outline every single part of your rabbit. Just select some spots. Make sure you've got water on that brush, on your paint, down underneath there. Going to outline where the edge of the face and the body would be. And again, look at that, not outlining everything, but that little outline, that little selective outline. And there's randomness to the process, makes it really pop. Your little rabbit starts to stand out against that background. So again, brown and black, a little brown and black mixture, some water. Very important that you're adding water to this. And I haven't forgotten, when I'm done here, I'm going to show you guys, for those of you that are newer to painting, how to clean up your brushes. So they last you a long time. A little bit of brush care. Right over here, over the top. Water is your friend in this case, especially when you're making really small lines. Okay, now I'm going to come over on this side. I'm barely touching the canvas. I'm using my hand here. All this is dry. I place my hand up against it, and then I just lightly, but I let the water do most of that work. If you're having a hard time getting that paint to spread, it's because you need more water. Introduce it slowly into your mix. So you don't accidentally add too much. You'll know when you have too much. It'll start to run down your canvas, in which case then you have to introduce more paint to the mixture. Now, if you wanted to, you could outline every bit of your rabbit, right? It doesn't have to be exactly like what I'm doing. Here underneath the little, where the little ear flops over, I do outline that. Oh, I also want to outline where the pink part is. Look at the difference with the outlined rabbit. Okay. No, I'm not done. We could add some more outline here to the edges. Okay. Bring the mouth out a little bit more. We got little whiskers we're going to be adding. Just edge in here. Maybe in here we'll do a few little All right, let me take a little step back here. See what we got with the little rabbit. He's a little chubbier over here than he is on that one. And that's okay. All right, what else? Let's see here. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and add another layer of paint over my yellow flowers here to make those stand out a little. Just going to take my little round number 3, just dip it right into my yellow paint. And I'm going to come in here. Just over some of those petals. Again, folks, if I've kicked it into a higher gear and I have a little bit, don't stress. You'll just go ahead and do this with a recorded session. Yes, whiskers. Let's see. Megan Louise says, mine looks nothing like yours, but like it because it is unique. And that's exactly right, folks. Again, everybody's painting, and I like to repeat this over and over, even though I haven't said it too much today. Usually when we're painting, I like to make sure everybody understands that. Everyone's painting is going to look different, okay? And that's part of the beauty of all this. Everyone's painting is unique. It's why I like for you guys to share those with me so then I can share them with the followers of the page, because everybody gets a chance to see that, hey, not everybody's is going to look, in some cases, they look quite a bit different, right? But everybody has something unique to it. People use different colors. It's just really fun to see everybody's paintings. So please, if you can, don't forget to send me a picture of your painting once you're all done. But because I don't want to forget this, and Penny just reminded me, we have to add some whiskers. What I'm going to do is using my zero brush, before I add those whiskers, I'm going to take a little bit of that dark paint that I just mixed for the outline, that I made for the outline. And I'm just going to dip my brush right into it. But I'm going to use just the very point of my bristles here. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do this. Now, these are probably difficult for you guys to see. I'm just adding a few little dots. Okay. I mean, I could come in and do another layer of paint in here to even things out a bit, right? You can see that there's some areas in there where I still have some of the light blue coming through in the background. I can refine that later. Okay, that's not that big of a deal. We don't have to do this on camera either. Just know that all these little areas in here where I see some blue coming through, I would go in there. It's a little hard to do this when we're doing the live session, but I would go in there and just touch all those little areas up. Okay, this around the edges, anywhere where you see some of that blue coming through, like here. Okay, that's easy enough to do. So there's my little dots on the face where the whiskers would come out of. Now I'm taking same round number 0. Taking some white. Find a spot on my plate over here. I'm going to take some of my water, dip my brush in that water, just like what we did with the outlining. Now this can be tricky to do, right? We've talked about this. Now you can also do this with the filbert. If your filbert is small enough, you can do this with the filbert. So I got 3 little whiskers on each side. As long as all this is dry, I can come in here, find a little spot. Yeah, they're really subtle, little tiny things. Let me see if I can do this. If I can hold this and do this at the same time. So when I come out, I press it. When I start the whisker, I press down on the brush a little bit. As I come out, as I get to the end of the whisker, I pull away from the canvas. As I get to that point, as I pull away, it thins the end of the whisker out. Okay, another one maybe right here. Let's see if I can do this without blocking as I get to the end. Okay, pull away as you get to the tip, to the point, makes it skinnier. All right, over to the other side. Here we go. Press down, come out, pull away. Press down, come out, pull away. Make sure you're using plenty of water in this mix, but not so much that you've got runny paint. Press down, come out, pull away. Practice on, you can practice on a spare canvas. No, I wouldn't do it on a spare canvas unless it's an old beat up canvas, but you can practice this on piece of paper. Okay. What we're going to do next, we're going to do another layer of paint over the pot. We're going to go ahead and add more grass in here. We can do some of the dark areas on these flowers over here, but we'll see. Oh, we need to add the purple flower here and then more of this guy here too. So let's see, which should we tackle first? Hold on one second. Let me take a look at everything. Let's go with the purple leaves coming out from the side here. I'm going to go with my round 0. Now, if you guys see me using a particular brush, if I say, hey, I'm using my round brush, regardless of the size, other brushes can do something similar. If you have a small flat, a small flat brush, a small flat brush can also do this. Just grabbing some purple, mixing a little bit of water with it. I'm going to start over here and bring it into behind this egg. Okay, so right over here, kind of like that. Right here, just doing a little bit of drawing. There we go. Right over here. Okay, comes out. Up in here. And then maybe it's a little thicker at the base, right, as it gets closer to the base. So always skinny first, and then add thickness as you feel you need to add, as thick as you'd like to make it. But skinny first. If it's too skinny, you can fix that a lot more easily than if you go too thick and then try to fix that. Let's say I made this leaf really giant. You're like, oh, and I'm like, goodness, I need to make that smaller. How would I make that smaller? I have to wipe it off. And sometimes even if, let's say I'm trying to wipe this off, I can sometimes pull some of the background paint off. And just be a little bit more problematic than if you have to fix something that's too skinny and make it wider. Since we got this purple paint, I'm just going to take a moment to come over here and outline some of these petals. Nothing fancy, just a few of them. Maybe darken in the center. Outline a little bit. Again, nothing fancy. Whenever you look at lots of paintings, when you're looking at them from a distance, they look like there's a lot going on, lots of details. When you get up close, oftentimes you'll see, it's pretty simple. There's not a whole lot there. Okay, these little lines, these little outlines that I'm doing right now is exactly that. Same thing over here. Not every part of the flower needs to be outlined. Just find a few little spots you'd like to accent. Okay, something like that. Before we continue with the grass blades, I'm going to do a second layer on my pot. And my mixture was red and brown and some white. I'm going to lighten up this next layer is going to get a little bit of a lighter treatment. I want to bring up the color of that pot. So I'm taking some red. This time I'm adding, I think I added some water to it originally also, but just taking a little bit of water that's in my brush, mixing it in with that red. I'm going to take less brown this time. Okay, I'm taking a little less brown. Okay, I'm mixing it in. And again, everyone's pot's going to be different, right? Different colored pots. That's going to be part of the fun. Seeing your flowers, your pots, all the different colors you're all going to be choosing. Okay, now I'm going to take some white. It's still kind of well, I was about to say it's kind of a brick color. It's like a light, really light brick color. And what do? Well, exactly what we did that first time. We outline everything first. We press down on the brush, making that edge nice and skinny, coming over to the sides. Now I do have some of these grass blades coming up. Just going to paint in between them. So ideally I wouldn't have done these grass blades till after this step. That's okay. We can still fix it. Just got to make sure I'm not muted from time to time. I didn't accidentally mute myself, and then I'm over here talking to myself. Okay, here we go. Don't forget, nice and curved lines, right? Given our using slightly curved lines all the way across. And if your pot's a little bit, maybe it's an older pot, it's a little weathered, etc. This paint layer doesn't have to be perfectly even all the way across. What I mean by that is, depending on how much paint I pick up, I can make a slightly thinner layer of this paint or slightly thicker. If I make it where it varies a little bit, some of that original color is going to bleed through a little, but it's going to vary a little bit. And that variation makes it look like like a slightly weathered or discolored older pot. So you can play with that a little bit. Any of you used chalk? When I'm all done with this, if you can see some of the edges of your chalk, pretty easy to clean up. So I'll talk about that also, in case some of you have some of that chalk peeking through. All right, I like this color better. Then up in here. People get surprised sometimes at how long painting sessions take. So I haven't done any in a while, but before I was doing these painting events, I was doing lots of in-person paint parties. I did that about 4 years pre-COVID, 3.5 years or whatever it was. But before that, I was doing commission paint, oil paints, portraits. I have you guys are on Instagram or on YouTube. If you look up Mendivil Fine Art, Mendivil Fine Art, and you'll see some of my old commission work. This was 7-8 years ago when I was doing commissions. Anyhow, portraits, people paintings can take hours and hours and hours. There's some portraits that would take me 20 hours sometimes. 30, 40, it just really depends. Sometimes people would ask, how long do these take? And I'd say, you take it 8 hours, and they'd go, what? And so sometimes it's 40, sometimes it's 30. So yeah, even this little painting, right, it may not look super complicated, but there's lots of little steps to make it really, really nice, really refined. And we could paint another hour, another 2 hours, and really dial it in. We're not going to do that. Well, you could if you like. I know some of you guys like to do that. Oftentimes I'll see, some of you guys will send me stuff, and I'm like, oh my gosh, looks really nice. I can tell you spent a lot of time getting into shading and everything else. But anyway, it's surprising to a lot of people how long it can take to create something. So, okay, there's my pot. I'm going to go ahead and take the same brush and make some more grass. Just going to clean it up a little. Chantal Vasquez. It's interesting because kids, I'm shocked so many times. I know there's lots of kids with short attention spans. You know, that's pretty common. But some kids that are really into art, I mean, I've had kids paint for 2, 3, 4 hours, no problem. And I'm like, what the heck? That's been a little bit surprising to me that, you know, there's plenty of kids that have plenty of patience, especially, you know, if they really like this stuff. Sometimes I'll do this for hours. But yeah, definitely. Really cool. What's up, Susan? How are you? All right, here we go. I'm using my 1/2 inch brush, and you could use your filbert or any other brush that you've got. I'm varying a little bit. My grass blades just going to come through here and start adding a third layer of these little grass blades, right? Density is the key. And here, what you can do now is you can start painting over the edges of your eggs. So what this does, it does two things. Of course, it makes it look like the eggs are in the grass, but now you're covering up some of the edge, that bottom edge of your eggs. So it gives it a little more dimension. And yeah, it just makes it look like those eggs are sitting in that grass. So this part with the grass, and we're almost at 6 o'clock. We're probably going to go for another maybe 10 minutes of that. I've got to take a little step back and look at everything. I still got the little grass to add up in here. But this part of it, a lot of you are going to, the more density we add in here, the more it looks like grass. That's the trick with grass. You could use varying thicknesses on your grass, but you know, whatever you do, you want to stay pretty even, uniform throughout. So, you know, if I switch brushes, so let's say right now I'm using this brush, I'm going to put blades all over the place, you know, all the way across, up, down. And then if I switch to another brush, a different brush size, and maybe even a different color of green, you just want to do it everywhere. Make everything nice and uniform. But grass tends to look a lot more natural when you're doing a lot of density, and you're overlapping your grass blades and slightly different angles, things like that. Up here over the top, right? Some of the grass blades are going to pop up. And if you want to play with it a little bit, adding like a little bit of blue or a little touch of black to your green, you can also create shadows and things of that nature. I'll show you guys right before we finish. I'll show you guys some areas that normally I would go in and start to kind of just touch up a little bit. There's also, oh, and I forgot this, adding the little petal, not the petals, but leaves here and then here. So we'll add those here in a bit. Then there's some people that can only paint for an hour, right? Whether you're an adult or you know, young kid, child. Some of us can only do this for so long. Get a little tired, gets a little fatiguing, especially if you're newer to this. There were times when I was doing my portraits and stuff, like I said, you know, some of those take hours and hours. I would paint for 3, 4, 5 hours straight. Usually I would paint at nighttime. I like painting through the middle of the night. You know, I'd start like at 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night and just paint my music. Everything's quiet other than my music. I'd have my window open, not too loud, right? My neighbor, don't want to upset my neighbors, but yeah, those were some really cool times. So, and again, same thing up here with the grass, as much density as you'd like. You could also come in with different colors of those shades of green and do the same thing. You could also outline your pot in a darker color, just like I did there. Maybe if there's a moment, we'll do that right now, but I want to take my round number 3, and then I also, for those of you that are sticking around, I'm going to talk about brush care in a moment, just a little bit. Okay. Taking some green with my round number 3 brush, just going to come over and These are just kind of like little, and I can start with the little leaves at the end first. Kind of like that. And then I'll take my 0. Okay. Now make those little tiny stems. A little bit of water in my brush. Spin the brush. I just connect those. Okay. Little leaves right here. Let me bring this close. I know these are pretty small. Okay. All right. So I think the very last thing that I would do if I was going to continue here with the painting, I would outline my pot. And in this case, I would take a brown or a really dark red that I could mix with black. Maybe we'll do that kind of quickly here. My 0, some black, take some red. It's going to become almost purplish in color, burgundy. But I want it dark enough where it's going to contrast right against that red, or that deep red that I've got on there. Spin the brush, make sure there's water in there. And mainly what I would want to separate would be this top part from the bottom part. Whoops. Let me clean that up. I had my easel sitting, or the canvas sitting on the edge of the easel. It wasn't seated all the way down, so there we go. But anyway, here we go. Okay, here's my outline. Okay. Might as well do the edges. Okay, there we go. Now that really pops. All right, guys, I'm going to look at the comment section just to make sure if somebody says, hey, Jesse, you forgot this, I'll look at it. Or if somebody has a question. Again, I do want to talk about brush care. Oh, here we go. Here's what I want to talk about. So all these little areas that I mentioned earlier, these little kind of light sections. Whoops, what's happening with my computer over here? These lighter sections around the nose and the eyes. I would just go in there and clean those up. Fill those in with paint, right? It is kind of cool looking. Some people like to leave those, but just to refine it a bit, I'd go in there and touch those up. I don't know if you guys can pick them up, but little sections like that, with little edges down here. Of course, more grass density in there. And that's pretty much that. I would also take green and cover this up just to match, kind of bring the color that's on the edge over. That's what I like to do. So I could also bring this green over, overlap it. Again, just this is a choice that I make. But let me make sure, of course, we sign the piece. We also want to sign our pieces so that, people know who did them. I didn't do these flowers on the sides. I made a choice earlier that I wasn't going to include those. No big deal. They're basically the same as what we've already done up here. I could go in there and add more orange to my orange flower up there to make it pop a little bit more. But basically, I think we've got everything in there. Let's talk about brush care really quickly. What I like to do when I'm all done, I'll take my brushes, I'll rinse them out with water. Take a little bit of dish soap or some type of mild detergent, just kind of clean them up. Let me, there we go. Clean them up, okay? And then when I'm done washing them, and it shouldn't take too long, right? They're wet. The paint's going to come off pretty quickly, unless you left your brushes on the side, not inside the cup, and the paint dried on them. That's a lot tougher to clean up. But brushes that are sitting in a water cup, simply take them out, rinse them off, use a little bit of mild detergent. When you're done cleaning them, you want to reshape them back to their original form. Okay? You want to do something like that. You want to take each one and shape it. Use your fingers to shape it back into place. Then you store it either facing upwards in a cup or whatever, facing upwards or on their sides. Excuse me. What you don't want to do is you don't want to store them in a cup or in a container where the weight of the handles is pushing down on the bristles. Okay, you don't want to do this. Okay, you do not want to do this where again, if they're in a cup and you leave them like this, they will slowly, over time, get bent out of shape. Okay, they're going to start to, the bristles are going to start to splay, and you're going to ruin them that way. If you've ever had brushes where you let the paint dry on them, now you got all this dried acrylic paint on them, they can become hardened and you can't use them anymore. Same thing. You want to, actually with those, what you want to do is you want to there's cleaners you can use, like nail polish cleaners, but there's cleaners specifically for acrylic paint that you could dip your brushes in and then use that to clean them with. However, you want to avoid having to get to that point, because you might ruin your brushes and then have to buy new ones. If you take care of them on a regular basis, as soon as you're done, clean them up. Don't let any paint dry on them. They'll last you a long time. Okay? But that's how you would take care of your brushes. All right, everybody. I put my virtual tip jar up on the screen once again. Okay, for those of you that are interested in helping support the page with that, it is greatly appreciated. There are ads and things like that I put out for these events, which, of course, there's supplies and everything else. But for those of you that can, it's greatly appreciated. You can also support by sharing the page with your friends, by liking it, by tagging the page, and of course, by following, by commenting. You guys help out by, whenever I post stuff on the Facebook page and on the YouTube page, by liking it, putting comments down in there, it gets the algorithm's attention, and that helps to promote the page. So all of that is appreciated. On Facebook, I'm at about almost 33,000 followers. Excuse me. Things have slowed down a little bit over the last month or so, but we're at about 33,000 followers, so that's pretty good. So anyhow, anything you guys can do helps. Do not forget, tomorrow we got our gnomes, our St. Patrick's gnomes, or gnomies, as I'm calling them. I'll be teaching you how to draw this from scratch, but there are stencils available for those of you that want to use those. Okay, make sure you guys head over to the event page on the main page here on Facebook, and look into the discussion tab. You'll see those there. Otherwise, you can email me at paintingwithjesse@gmail.com, and I'll send you guys the PDF files for those. Also, please do not forget, send me pictures of your stuff. If you're under age 18 here in the United States, please do not send me anything without your parents' consent. Check with your parents first. As a matter of fact, I would prefer you let them send the picture. On Facebook, you'll send it here on Messenger. Just go to Painting with Jesse, click on Send Message. You can tag your pictures there, right? Load your pictures there and send them over. If you're in a group, take a picture of yourselves holding the paintings. It's awesome. I'd love to see your faces. If not, just picture of your painting. And then once I get a bunch of those, I'll share them on the Facebook page. If you're on YouTube, you can come over to Facebook if you have a Facebook page and do the same thing, or you can email me your paintings at paintingwithjesse@gmail.com. Okay, it's Jesse, Jesse. Make sure you don't put an I in there anywhere. You'll send them to somebody else. But anyway, folks, let's look at those questions, see if I've missed anything. Let me get over to the comments. Yeah, just make sure you guys are, like the page and follow the page so you guys could stay in touch with everything. Let's see. Carolyn Gregory says, thank you once again, Jesse. I think I'm developing a primitive style, having trouble with super thin lines. So super thin lines take work. Okay, it's practice. Use the right tools though. You want to make sure you're using the right type of brushes. If you've got a brush that does not get skinny, right? If you've got, let's say you're using a filbert brush or a flat brush, and when you press it down on your plate, it doesn't get skinny enough, then you're never going to make skinny lines. So make sure you're using the right type of brushes. Very important. If you're using a round brush, right? Zero brush, whatever size brush you're using, it's got to be able to get really skinny and pointy. That's your first step to creating nice skinny lines. And then lots of practice. Once you commit to a line, you just go for it and do it. Okay. So practice, a lot of practice. Laverne Davenport. All right. See you next time. Linda Stewart. Awesome. Glad you enjoyed it. Thank you for being here. My pleasure. Hope to see all of you guys again. Penny says, finishing on time. I think this is my third painting I finished with you on time. We took a little bit longer, I think, with this one. I kind of laid out some more steps, a little bit more than usual, but absolutely, Penny. I'm glad that you were able to finish on time. That's awesome. Let's see. Oh, anyway, yeah, so Laverne, yeah, I decided earlier that I wasn't going to do the flowers next to the pot. It was just kind of redundant. I kind of like the look. When I added the flowers to the original, I kind of looked at it and I said, you know what? To make it look nice, I'd have to add a whole bunch of flowers or more flowers on both sides to kind of make things more even. So I decided that today I wasn't going to add those flowers just to avoid that. Okay. But all right, let's see what else, guys. What else? All right, everyone. I think that's it. Danielle Robinson, such a fun night from Ontario. Awesome, Danielle. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. All of you, thank you guys so much. I really hope you enjoyed the lesson, the class. I know I did, as per usual. I just want to remind everybody, if you haven't yet, please follow the page just so you guys can make sure that you guys stay on top of everything. Lots of fun stuff, lots of fun events that I'll be adding here in March, besides the stuff that I showed you. So make sure you guys stick around. All right, everyone. Hope you guys have an amazing rest of your evening or morning, wherever you're joining me from. I think if you're in Australia, it's morning time, I believe. Anyway, thank you guys all. Have an awesome rest of the evening or day, and I will see you guys all tomorrow, hopefully. Bye-bye now. Don't forget, the session will be available immediately after this is over. So you guys can go over and continue with the recorded session. All right, good night. Bye-bye.